Okay, welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for our October regular session of the board. I'd like to begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Harmony, would you verify the quorum, please?
Yes, sir. Director Bingham?
Here.
Director Odell?
Here.
Director Commission?
Here.
Director Nathan?
Here.
President Poland?
Here.
Vice President Cormack?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we'd hoped that we'd be face-to-face, but we're not. There's lots of things going on with folks that are face-to-face these days. We continue to monitor that, and as soon as we have clarity on what our requirements are from the county and the state, we'll be able to get back to that. But in the meantime, we look forward to having a good chat with you. Please use the chat box if you would like to talk, or click raise your hand, which is behind the participants button, or you can email board at canyonlakepoa.com, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Your participation will be during the board action items when we have some discussion, and during our discussion items. The board action items, of course, are the things that we vote on, and we'll have a chance for you to participate as it relates to those action items as we go through the agenda. The discussion items are things that we put up that we want to have a conversation about, and so we look forward to hearing from you. You'll hear from us. These are really the opportunities that the directors have to speak to one another about these issues, because by the Davis Stirring laws, we're not supposed to get together and talk about this kind of stuff without having you folks available to listen if you like. Do appreciate all the emails that we received, and have received a lot of emails in the last 24 hours related to signs and related to the speed of golf carts. Either of those things are on the agenda tonight or a part of our discussion items. But if you come and you would like to speak on those things, please plan to do that during the public comment period. And as always, I'd ask you to please be mindful of your time and try to limit your individual comments to 3 minutes whenever you have a chance or given the opportunity to do that. Okay, I'd like to move on to approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Jeannie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Moved and second to approve our minutes.
I have a correction.
Sure.
On, lose it now. Okay. On September 1st, item 5, motion resolution, first item, pulled item K. It's supposed to be item A. Minor thing, but I thought we better correct it.
Should be A as an apple?
A is an apple, yeah.
Okay, if you guys would like to approve as corrected, we can fix that.
Okay. Jeannie, I assume that your motion stands with that correction?
Yes, it stands.
And the second is okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, motion carried. So, public officials' comments. Darcy, I saw your picture a minute ago. Do you have comments for us?
Yes, I do, President Poland. I'll take just a few moments of your time. First, I wanted to extend my condolences to Mr. Pablo Lopez, his family and friends, who's the young gentleman that passed away this weekend on the lake. And it just makes us remind us, I think, all that we need to respect water and be mindful of each other and watch out. So my condolences to his family and friends. I also want to mention that Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which is where our water district and most in Southern California purchase about 67 to 70% of our water comes from them. At their September meeting, they approved a rate increase of 3% to go into effect in January and 4% to go into effect the next January. In addition to that, we're waiting to see what Western does. So even if we never raised our rates, we would be paying more than 7% more for 70% of our imported water than we are today. And that doesn't count our regional wholesaler Western. So I just want to make people aware. Unfortunately, Metropolitan's rate structure is that of consumption. So the more water they sell, that's how they fund everything. And in their budget alone, there's $600 million annually allocated for water from the State Water Project through the Bay Delta. And this year, the allocation was 20%, which some people are thinking, well, who cares? We get 20% of the water, but we as a region have to pay for 100% of the load. So that doesn't make us less thirsty. That doesn't make people use less water. It just means now we have to go compete to buy that water on the open market, making it more expensive. So when we talk about water rates locally, I want people to be mindful that that's impacted regionally and state. So that basically we're paying others and the middleman to get water here, and it's not necessarily our ability to control those costs. We can advocate for them to be reasonable. Metropolitan started out with a 7 and 8% in the discussion, so down to 3 and 4 was probably the best we were going to do. EVMWD launched a temporary website on Monday. Our last website was so old that it could not be repaired. So they migrated the data over. It looks a little different. It's ADA compliant. It's temporary. It's not what I would call pretty, but it's extremely functional. So hopefully you'll be able to find what you need to pay your bill or get information on rebates, that type of thing, but at least it's extremely functional. The shut-off moratorium is still in effect, so if you have been unable to pay your water bill, we're not turning off your service for non-payment. But I would encourage you, if you're experiencing financial hardships, to reach out to our customer service department to set up some type of payment plan. My worst fear is that people let this grow and grow and grow, and then they have this huge amount of money due at the end of this and won't be able to catch up. On Saturday, October 17th from 10 to 12, the Water District's going to host something called Flow into Fall. And in the spring, we always did a splash into spring, which was a community event. We had equipment that young kids could ride on. We had tours of our wastewater treatment plant. But given COVID, we can't do that. So staff has put together a number of virtual tours, including one of our garden that has a unique interactive feature. If there's those drought-tolerant plants you always wanted to know what they were and where you get them, there's actually a way, even with gaming goggles, you can click on that plant and it'll show you what it is and what its name is. So I think that's pretty interesting. All of that will be available online too if you can't join in that day. You can go to the website evmwd.com and either participate that morning or at least access this information after the event. Every month, each director gets a list of how efficient our division is. And although we're Division 1, I hate to report that we are the least efficient and use the most excessive amount of water out of the entire service area of Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District. And I think a lot of that is because about 40% of our service area is on automatic pay. So people, the money comes right out of their account. They don't pay any attention to how much water they're using. And although money may not be a main factor, I want people to realize that all the extra water on your yard and your flower beds, on your car, all runs off and goes into the lake. So those nutrients contribute to the water quality of the lake. So if we could just be mindful as it gets cooler to use less water. If you're on auto pay, we have a feature called Auto Hawk. And Auto Hawk, you can set the parameters. It alerts you if you have a leak. It alerts you if you are getting close to your water budget. And you can decide what parameters you want it to be. It's an app. It will alert you by email, a text, what your preference is. So if you're on auto pay, it might be something worth considering so you understand kind of where you are and where your water use is. I would encourage everybody to sign up for AquaHawk, whether you're on auto pay or not. It's actually quite helpful. Our EVMWD lobby is open once again, and we actually are having in-person board meetings. We have made space available for the public to participate with social distancing guidelines in effect, but we would encourage the public, whether they want to participate in person or similar to you, they can email our board secretary or listen in on WebEx. We would appreciate their input. And finally, I'm not going to steal any thunder, but I have had a few conversations with Jeannie, and I'm excited to say that we're going to maybe moving some things forward. So I'll let Jeannie, I know in your director report, have that. But I just want to say that it's been wonderful to have a very cooperative and positive engagement. So unless anybody has any questions, that's all I have this evening.
Thank you very much, Darcy. Any questions for Darcy, directors? Okay, that's great. Thank you, Darcy.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do we have anyone from the city or other public official that would like to address us? I didn't see anybody. Harmony, do you?
I don't.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to item 4, our announcements. I'm sorry, item 4 is presentations. We don't have any presentations today, so we're going to move on to announcements. I'm pleased to announce that back in March, we're a little late doing this, but we didn't want to miss the opportunity to say that the Canyon Lake Campground Club donated almost $5,400 toward the campground play equipment. We appreciate that. Alex Cook was chair. I'm not sure the committee is active right now, but at any rate, we did want to recognize this very generous contribution to our campground. The other thing is we want to announce that we're going to have a meeting between the board and the committee chairs coming up. Lynn, do you want to speak to that, please?
She might be having audio issues. Let's see here.
I'm sorry, I had it muted so I wasn't giving background noise. So on October 28th from 4 to 6 p.m. we're going to host another workshop meeting with the committee chairperson. So we're sending out the invitations with the agenda. We announced a club presidents meeting last month that we host, and this is an opportunity for the committee chairpersons and liaisons to meet with the board and discuss committee guidelines. We're looking at the reappointment list this evening and just kind of go over some of the goals and things that the committees are working on with the board. So we'll be sending out an invite and posting information on that meeting shortly this week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Looking forward to that meeting. Gives us a chance to interact with the committee chairs, have the committees all listen to each other, the things that they're working on, the things that they're concerned about, and appreciate you joining us for that meeting. If you want more information about our committees, this issue of Canyon Lake Living, the fall issue, has a very, very nice write-up about each of our committees. And I would certainly encourage any of you that are interested in participating in those where there's positions available to be sure to go online and pick up the application and fill that out. Okay, we are ready now for the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to remove from the consent agenda?
Nope.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move. I'll second.
Okay, that was moved by Tom, is that right? Or
Yep.
thank you, Tom. Seconded by Joe. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, we're ready to move on to our board action items. This is item number 7 on our agenda. And each one of these will have a presentation, and we'll have an opportunity for member comments, opportunity for board comments and discussion, and then we can take action on the motion. The first one is we have approval of our annual committee member appointments. Lynn?
Yes, sir. So in our committee guidelines and policies, it specifies that the term limits of the committee members are on a 1-year term. As directed by the board, the committee members shall be reappointed annually. Attached to this board action item is the master roster of committee members that are recommended for reappointment. So it is recommended that the board of directors approve the annual committee member appointments as attached, effective immediately.
Okay, thank you. And we all received copies of that in our board books. Do I have any comments from the members related to committee membership?
You said from the community?
Yes, from the community.
I have no hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any board comments?
Yes, I do. On the Tuesday work group, they typically mid-year have their elections, and Don Norris is no longer the chairman. Sam Theodora is the chairman of the Tuesday work group, and they voted in a new member. All the other names are fine. They voted in a new member, Eric Schrader. So I'd like to add to that.
So
Okay,
Sam,
thank you, Joe.
I have 2 comments as well.
Okay,
Under facilities planning, the board approved 2 alternates, not 1. The second alternate was Dale Welty. And under the finance committee, just to be consistent with everybody else, it's 7 members and 1 alternate. And then we had a resignation of Doug Schultz. So the committee is reviewing applications, et cetera, and we'll make a motion at the next board meeting as to what we want to do, or what they want to do.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments? Then I believe there was a member that was being added to the ACC, perhaps as an alternate member. I didn't see the name on the list. Do you know anything about that?
No, I'm not aware of that. There might be an application pending. Is that?
It was supposed to be on this agenda and we missed the deadline. My apologies. It's going to be on the November agenda to appoint.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments on the list of members? Then I believe that all the suggestions that have made are just adding to the accuracy of the list. We haven't really added any members, so I believe we can make those changes to the list before we approve it.
Correct.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the list of committee members as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Motion carried. Next item 7.2 is the rule revision PC 3.2 first floor elevation for lakefront lots. Cheryl, I think I saw you were online. Could you present this to us, please?
Yes, I will. The ACC committee and staff recommend that the rule revision to remove the verbiage, the 100-year flood level per FEMA, to the PC 3.2 first floor elevation on lakefront lots. If you look at section 7 under subsection A, the only thing it basically states is first floor elevation of 1397.5 MSL on all lakefront lots. And so it is recommended the board of directors approve the rule revision for PC 3.2 first floor elevation for lakefront lots as attached.
Okay, do we have any members that would like to speak on this?
I have no hands raised.
Okay, comments from the board? Okay, I'd like to make one comment. I think this makes perfect sense. I know I was aware of one case where some folks wanted to build below the 1397.5 foot limit that is set in our CCNRs, but well above the 100-year floodplain. And this conflict caused a problem with that, so we need to get that straightened out. I do think it's something that we want to consider in the future. We are still hoping, as many boards have hoped, to do some changes to our CCNRs and to get back closer to the 100-year floodplain for this construction. I'm speaking my own opinion now, as opposed to the 1397.5 elevation. That would provide an additional 10 or 12 feet for folks to be able to use areas that are on the steeper lots on the lakefront, but that has to come forward later on. So do we have a motion to approve revisions to PC 3.2 first floor elevation for lakefront lots?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to 7.4, the Architectural Control Committee, PC 1.1. Cheryl?
I believe it's supposed to be 7.3, Rule Revision PC 8.1, under improved lots.
Correct.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, you're correct. I skipped that. Please forgive me and do it PC 8.1.
Yes, okay, so the ACC committee has found that a clearer definition of PC 8.1 is required where trees shall be planted on the front yard. The courtyard area is not considered an area in which trees can be planted in the front yard. Courtyards can be developed as habitable space. The update to this rule includes the definition of the area in which trees can be planted, which includes a portion of the community setback starting 6 feet back from the curb, in addition to the 20-foot front yard setback. There is a diagram, if you would all like to look at it. When it is recommended that the Board of Directors approve the rule revision to PC 8.1 improved lots as attached.
Okay, thank you. So do we have any comments from the community?
No.
Comments from the directors?
Yeah, I have just a quick question for Cheryl. In the red line version, well, I guess in the final version too, in the middle of the paragraph, it refers to the 15-gallon trees or larger located in a 20-foot front setback and or community setback, excluding courtyard area if applicable. So does that mean that trees could be planted there?
No, so if you, Harmony or Lynn, I'm not sure who's doing, can you go back to the diagram?
I've got it. Okay.
Okay, so the diagram shows you where I kind of like lined out the 6 feet. So the area in which is not able to be planted is from the curb back to that 6-foot mark. And then where it can be planted is from the community setback from the 6 foot all the way to the house where it's the 20-foot setback. So the area that is considered a courtyard, which is just above that, is where it cannot be, because that particular area can actually be enclosed as habitable space.
Okay. I guess I was reading it wrong. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Any other comments? I would like to say that I'm very much in favor of this. You all know that I'm very much in favor of trees. They support our air quality, they provide shade, and around here when it gets hot we need shade. They support wildlife and the beauty of our community. I think we need to be careful about our trees, and we need to continue to encourage planting them in places where they can thrive for very, very many decades, for their full life. And I see this as an opportunity to do that. That courtyard area, as I understand it, is a buildable area, and if we plant trees in there and future owners decide they want those trees taken out because they want to build, then we lose a tree. So I'm fully in support of this. Can I have a motion to approve revision to PC 8.1 related to improved lots and trees?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve PC 8.1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, Cheryl, now we're ready for PC 1.1, Architectural Control Committee.
Okay, so the ACC committee is requesting that the Board of Directors approve additional information to PC 1.1 in order to explain how and why the ACC committee makes its decisions. Decisions are made due to the PC rules and regulations, CC&Rs, and for the aesthetic appeal to each neighborhood. Not all informative CC&Rs were included in the planning compliance section for explanation purposes. This existing CC&R provides some helpful information to the member as to how decisions are made. So it is recommended the Board of Directors approve the rule revision to PC 1.1 for architectural control at committee as attached.
Do you have any comments from the community?
No, sir.
Comments from the board?
Yeah.
Okay, I would just like to say that I think this is a very good addition. We have a very dedicated staff in our Planning and Compliance Department. Thank you very much, Cheryl, for your work. And an ACC that cares a lot about our community. Of course, this is very subjective, it always is, but that we have a proper appeals process that we can go through. So I think this is a great clarification. Can I have a motion to approve revisions to PC 1.1?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. I have a motion and a second to approve PC 1.1. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Now we're ready to move on to 7.5. This is a 28-day reading, so no decision will be made tonight. This is a 28-day reading of a rule revision that we will consider over the next month. Your comments on this will be carefully considered and it will be decided and voted on at the next meeting. So I'll turn to Corey to explain to us the rule revision on GR 1.3. It says fines not exclusive remedy, but it really goes much farther than that, as I'm sure you're going to explain.
Yes, good evening. So the following revision to our rules would update our rules to comply with a change in California Civil Code, which mandates that a member's voting privilege cannot be suspended or revoked for non-payment of fines. So we're talking about community patrol violations here, marine patrol violations. So the recommendation to the board is that the board of directors approve the 28-day reading to revise rule GR 1.3 as attached. And when you look at the red line version, we're simply removing the last portion of the paragraph, which dictates that voting privilege would be one of the potential disciplinary actions for non-payment of fines.
If you take a minute to read that whole paragraph, you'll see that there are a number of actions that we're permitted to take, or that we have all agreed that we're able to take as disciplinary actions. And as Corey said, this one last rule was one that the California legislature decided that we couldn't do anymore. Any comments from the community?
No, sir.
Comments from the directors? Yeah, I do, and it was this was actually in effect this year's election, and it was surprising to see that when we calculated quorum for our election, that we had to calculate 100% of our membership. And typically in the past, we've been able to reduce it by the number of delinquent members that we have. So that puts a little bit more pressure on people to get out and vote to get that first 30% for the quorum. So I just want to so people know that does have an impact on our elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Other comments? Okay, I really have nothing to say here. This is something you have to do to comply with state law. And I certainly second what Joe just said about our being able to achieve quorum in our voting. I have a motion to approve the 28-day reading of Rule GR 1.3.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Tom. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second, Joe. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving on to 7.6. This is funding for the Roadrunner restroom design update. This is one of the projects that's on our project list for this year that was approved by the board and subject to public comment back in May and June. So, Steve, could you please present this to us?
Good evening. So the CLPOA has had a project in the works to place a permanent restroom building at Roadrunner Park. In May of 2020, the board of directors approved an ADA ramp down to the park to meet the accessibility requirements of the park, which started construction mid-September. The original restroom drawings are out of date and need to be brought up to current code. Unfortunately, the original designer is no longer in business. We would like to hire a new design team to include architectural, engineering, and other services to bring the old design into current standards and provide an overall project impact cost. Construction documents to be ready for permit submittal to be done by February 1st, 2021. The funding request includes permit fees. Fiscal impact is $26,400 plus a $5,400 for permit fee and contingency from capital improvements 05670. Staff requests the board of directors approve funding from amount not to exceed $31,800 from CIP fund 05670 for the updated design construction documents for Roadrunner restroom project.
Can I have a motion to approve Roadrunner restroom design update contract?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Taking this a little bit different order, now we're ready for discussion. Do we have any comments from the community?
No, sir.
Comments from the board?
It's a long time coming. I'm glad to see it happening.
Okay. All I will say is I have noticed a little bit of conversation on some of the various Facebook sites where people are concerned about us spending money. The reality is that we are under charge, and part of our board principles is to continue to take care of this place and to improve it for our members and for their enjoyment and peaceful use. And this is certainly one of those projects. So I'm very much in favor of it. As Joe said, I agree. I think it's a long time coming. We'd be glad to see it there. Glad the handicap ramp is going in now. I have a motion and a second to approve this funding. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now we'll move on to 7.7. This is another one of the projects that's on our 2021 project list. Having to do with Canyon Lake Drive, the South Median landscape. And Jeannie has a presentation for us. Jeannie?
Thank you. The 2021 Board of Directors determined in outlining our guiding principles that it is important to our community that we continue to enhance our unique identity, that we protect our property values, and that we preserve and protect our commonly owned facilities. There have been many discussions regarding the appearance of the entrance medians at Canyon Lake Drive South and whether the current landscape and hardscape features are representative of the unique identity that we are trying to achieve. The Facilities Planning Committee was tasked with reviewing the landscape concept provided by the current landscape maintenance company and provide additional recommendations. It was agreed upon by the committee that a unifying element is needed to tie all of the various landscape elements together. It was also agreed upon by the committee that whatever is planted in these areas must not cause damage to the surrounding road infrastructure. So the committee researched options. I can continue to read this if we want, but brainstorming ideas such as replacing existing pine trees with mature palm trees, landscape uplighting, which could change colors according to the season, creating a wow factor with colorful landscaping, updating the look of the banner stand used by clubs for announcing functions, and creating a left turn pocket at Bluebird Drive. So, and then we've attached some drawings for us to look at as we get through the agenda. The fiscal impact is an estimated cost, and once again, this is a rough order of magnitude cost for the total project. So it's not a bid, it's just an estimate on rough order of magnitude of between $100,000 and $150,000. Our fund source is the combined repair and replacement and our road reserve. So the recommendation is that it's requested that the Board of Directors authorize the project to proceed to the next milestone, which is design development. It is requested that the Board of Directors authorize staff to engage the services of the appropriate professional consultants. And it is further requested that design development documents be available for review and commenting at the February 2021 Facilities Planning Committee with presentation to the board at the March 2021 Board of Directors meeting. So in order to accomplish that unifying element, the areas to be included in this landscape plan are the entrance median between Railroad Canyon Road and the main gate, the planter areas adjacent to the entry fountains and sign monument, the planter areas to the east and west of the entrance median, and the planter medians inside the main gate at Canyon Lake Drive, south to Bluebird Drive. And then I've outlined what the deliverables would be, which would be landscape plans, including colored renderings, irrigation plans, civil plans for a left-hand turn pocket at Bluebird Hall, electrical and communication plans for proposed uplighting, downlighting, and electronic message board to replace the current banner stand, and a preliminary construction cost estimate. And then we have a couple of attachments.
Do you plan to go through the attachments, Jean?
Are we going to screen share, or right now the screen's got something else on it?
Yeah, we're trying to get Lynn's agenda back. Just a second here.
No problem. I was trying to stall for us.
Okay.
Can you guys see that? Can you see the land care logic?
No, we
No.
see raise your hand.
Here, I stopped sharing, Lynn. Maybe you could share now.
Let me try to share now. I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing this whole time. There we go.
There
Can
we
you
go.
see that now?
Yeah.
That's good.
So this was a rendering prepared by Land Care Logic, who are our current maintenance contractor. They only addressed one of the 4 areas that need to be looked at as far as the committee is concerned. So here are some of the suggestions on plant types that they came up with. That's the one island that they gave us a rendering for. I think Steve Schneider's online too, if he wants to add anything to this.
Am I going too fast?
No, not at all.
Jean, I was just a little confused that they only addressed one of the 4. Are you talking about the turn pocket and stuff that wasn't addressed in land care logic?
Correct, and they didn't, yes, and then outside the gate too, we didn't address that area yet.
Correct.
So.
Keep going.
Please keep going. And then this is a presentation that the Facilities Planning Committee put together where they kind of brainstormed some ideas as well that could be used by the consultant that's hired or not used. So you can keep scrolling. Just some examples that they gathered throughout several communities that they visited. And then here's the left-hand turn pocket. If you want to pause there, I don't know if we can make that any bigger, but right, Bluebird Hall, as you're going down Canyon Lake Drive south, heading north, Bluebird Hall does not have a left-hand turn pocket. You can see over on the left where the existing conditions are versus what the proposed new conditions would be. So a portion of that island would be removed to create that left-hand turn pocket. And that would be consistent with every other left-hand turn before Bluebird Drive. And then there's some curbing repairs and stuff like that that need to be made as well. So this would be part of the project as well. I think that's the last one. That is.
Why don't you go back up?
Go back up,
to
sir?
one of those beautiful pictures. Yeah, go back up to one of those real pretty pictures. So you can see that. Maybe the one with all the color. There we go. How about that? Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. Anyway, do we have comments from the community about the designing and upgrading our median landscaping on Canyon Lake Drive South?
I'm not sure if it's on this item, but I have Renee who'd like to speak on one of these items. Is it this item, Renee?
It was the item previously, so that's okay. But I will tell you the uplighting is gorgeous, and I do love the color. So I have no comment on this one.
Okay. Anyone else?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Bob and Diane Whiteside.
Comments? I'm sorry?
Bob and Diane Whiteside?
Hi.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I I didn't see all of the slides that had the different tree options. I just noticed one was a Palo Verde, and we actually have 2 Palo Verde trees that we're going to be removing because they are so messy when they drop the yellow blooms when they bloom in the spring. But so I didn't really, and they get very large. They're, as a matter of fact, you can come and look at them at our house. Right now there's no blooms, but they do get really large, and they need a lot of trimming. We're gonna remove them, as a matter of fact, and replace them, of course, with different trees. But so did you have any other trees noted in the slides besides the palms, or?
Diane, what we're asking is that this actually go to a landscape design person to come up with some features for us. So the Palo Verdes were just an example that our Land Care Logic company came up with. Some of these other trees are just pictures. So, you know, we're looking to a design consultant to come in and take our ideas and put them together in a cohesive element for us. Taking everything that you said about the Palo Verde trees into consideration, because I love those trees, but I know what you mean.
Yes, they're very right. We have the no, they're the green. They have the green trunk to them, so they're very pretty, but very messy. That's the reason why we're getting rid of them. They're just they're
like a jacaranda, only they're yellow.
Well,
yeah.
We appreciate your input. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments, Harmony?
No, sir.
Comments from the board? All I'd like to say is that I think that we have learned over the years that it's best to turn to the professionals, architects, engineers, landscape architects, to design these remarkable features for us. All of us have our opinions, and that gives us a basis for which we can move forward. We don't want to do these things on our own. Can I have a motion to approve this recommendation related to the medium design? That was you, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the recommendation to retain a landscape architect and move forward with the design to design development. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Move on to the next item, 7.8, related to the mailbox security lighting. This is another project that we have on our list. Jeannie?
Thank you. Joe Kameshian has also been a big help in putting some of this information together, so I might call on him for some questions or comments as well. So the 2021 Board of Directors determined in outlining our guiding principles that it is important to our community that we preserve and protect our commonly owned facilities as well as our members. The Facilities Planning Committee, as well as several board directors, received comments, from members over the years regarding the lack of lighting at the community mailboxes, raising concerns over safety and security at these locations. The mailboxes were placed several years ago with United States Postal Service approved units to reduce vandalism. The concrete slabs are currently being replaced to assist with improving the safety of members while accessing their mailboxes. Installation of the light fixtures would be the final step to improve member safety and security at these locations. For reference, there are currently these fixtures in use at the mailbox units located at Black Horse Drive and Sorrel Lane. Our fiscal impact, once again, it's a rough order of magnitude cost, is between $100,000 and $120,000. That's going to be dependent on the number of fixtures that need to be installed at each location, because some of the larger mailbox locations might require 2. The fund sources are capital improvement. So it is requested that the Board of Directors approve this project to proceed with the next phase, which is procurement and installation. It is requested that the Board of Directors authorize staff to proceed with the installation of 2 Solar King powered mailbox lights at the following locations. And we have some diagrams to show this. Longhorn Drive at Appaloosa Court and Continental Drive at Cruz Circle. The purpose of installing these lights at these locations is to solicit member comments regarding any possible environmental impact prior to installing fixtures at the remaining locations. It is requested that the lights, at these 2 locations be installed by no later than January 5th of 2021. And the board would like to receive member comments by no later than the board meeting on February 2nd, 2021. And then we have a presentation. So this is the vendor that we're looking at. And as you can see, they've installed them in quite a few communities around the United States. These are the 2 locations that we would like to have the first 2 locations that we would like to have the lights installed. So once again, that's Longhorn Drive in Appaloosa and Cruise Circle in Continental. And each one, because the size of the mailboxes would only require 1 fixture at each location. These fixtures are motion activated, they're solar, and would not require digging up the existing slabs. They basically just clamp to the base of the mailbox itself.
Sorry, am I going too fast, please?
Nope, you're going fine for me. So that was the end of that, though.
Okay.
End of the pictures.
Just one correction, Jeannie.
Thank you.
They don't clamp to the base. They actually bolt. They slip around the base of the existing mailbox, but they anchor down to the concrete.
Okay, thank you.
It's a very good design and very solid.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeannie. One of the projects that's responsive to requests that we've had from many members over the years. Do we have any comments from the community?
No, we don't.
Okay, comments from the board?
How many light poles are we looking at for the whole community?
It's about 90 plus, and Steve Schneider can help with that figure because some of the mailbox locations will require 2. So right now we're looking at 90 plus.
Correct, Jenny. You're right on the number. Give 90 plus, 90 to probably 96.
I had a good teacher there, Steve. Thank you.
Steve, will the operations department install this, or will you have a contractor install it?
The operations department will be installing these.
Okay. I think that'll make a lot of people happy personally. It's pretty dark out there at night sometimes.
If the community wants to get a look at these light fixtures, we actually have 2 installed at Sorrel Lane and Black Horse. And they've been in place for a couple of years, I understand. And I happened to talk to one of the homeowners that lives off of Black Horse. And he said the light works great. The motion sensor is right on, and it's not offensive. He lives on the property right behind it. That's actually a photo. I believe that photo you're looking at is a photo of Black Horse.
Yes, that's Black Horse.
Yeah, and he's on that property, and he says he doesn't find them offensive at all in any way, and very helpful. So that was positive feedback that I got already. And people, if they're anxious to see them, they can drive over there and take a look.
And then we can look at some within this area too after January.
Correct.
Any other comments from the board? Can I have a motion to approve the recommendation for mailbox security lighting, which approves in concept the entire project and authorizes the installation of 2 locations so that we can judge the environmental impact and any possible other remaining issues?
So moved.
Second.
The motion moved and seconded that we approve 7.8 mailbox security lighting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you, Jeannie and Joe. Appreciate that.
And Steve?
And Steve, thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing that done. Okay, now we're going to move on to the discussion time on our agenda. As I said before, this is a time when we're looking for an opportunity for the board to discuss amongst themselves the value of these recommendations and also hear from the community. We don't intend to make any decisions tonight. We won't make any decisions tonight, but just gather information. Each one of these things will turn into some kind of action, some kind of board action item, maybe a 28-day rule, maybe some other kind of an action item in the coming months. But right now, we're just looking at the concepts behind them. So looking forward to hearing from the community and the directors. Our first one is 7.9, possible rule GR 5.5A, a revision to no recreational vehicle and trailer parking on streets for more than 24 hours. Corey, can you take us through this, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you. So tonight we're going to look at two rules related to parking of RVs and utility trailers within the community. The first rule is related to RV parking, and our current rule essentially states that RVs are allowed to be parked on the street for up to 24 hours for loading and unloading purposes only. In the instance that a member needs an extended period of time to go through that process, they can request a 48-hour pass from Community Patrol, and they can request that pass up to 2 times in a 30-day period. So just to give a little background here, I'm going to read through this. Over the last several months, various community members and members of the Appeals Committee have expressed concerns regarding RV/trailer parking and the associated rules. Specifically, concerns include, number 1, the volume and length of time that RVs/trailers are being parked on the streets. 2, the difficulty of driving when an RV has pop-outs extended into the streets. And 3, the general confusion on the definition of a trailer as it relates to this specific rule. The proposed rule revision addresses these concerns and has the following impact. Number 1, the rule language is updated to clarify that the rule applies to RVs, fifth wheels, and camping trailers. Number 2, the 48-hour pass option is eliminated, and the rule changes to only allow temporary street parking of 24 hours for loading and unloading. And number 3, the rule language is added to prohibit pop-outs extending into the street. The fiscal impact is not directly known. For the period for this year, starting in January, Community Patrol has issued a total of 22 written warnings / citations for this rule violation. So if we scroll down, I can read the proposed revised rule. And how it would read is it would say, the rule title would change. It would say no recreational vehicle, fifth wheel, and camper trailer parking / storage on streets for more than 24 hours. RVs, fifth wheels, and camping trailers may not park on the street for more than 24 hours at a time and only to permit loading and unloading. In the event that pop-outs need to be extended, a RV may park opposite the direction of normal traffic to ensure that the pop-outs extend towards the property during daylight hours only. Pop-outs are not allowed to be extended toward the center of the road. All RVs, fifth wheels, and camping trailers must be parked in front of the owner's property. So the recommendation before the board tonight is to discuss the proposed changes and provide feedback.
Okay, do we have any comments from the community?
No, not at this time.
Okay, please, if you're thinking about this and you'd like to comment, please raise your hand and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Comments from the directors?
Needless to say, Jeannie and I worked with Corey on this, and we shared our concerns and ideas, and I think he put together a comprehensive revision that covers our needs. So I'm definitely in favor of this.
Yeah, as Joe said, we worked with Corey on this. We're trying to, and as Corey said, we're trying to, listened to and proposed modifications based on all of the member comments that we've been receiving since I've been on the board, since Joe's been on the board, in our various workshops. As I walk down the street with my dog, I mean, you know, everybody stops and kind of talks about this issue. So I think we're making a good start towards maybe trying to get that a little under control.
I had a question. Would it be advantageous to, if you have to overnight park, that you get a permit from the security so that they know not to mess with that vehicle, and then it would be should be removed within 24 hours?
So we did have a discussion about issuing permits or not issuing permits, and you know, one of the things that was brought up was when a member comes home from a trip, let's say they're going to the river, the last thing that they want to do is to have to go to Bluebird Hall on their way home to get a permit to park their RV on the street. You know, so we did discuss that option and decided to not include that in this proposed rule revision because quite frankly, we felt like it would be more of a hassle to the member to have to go through that process versus just giving them a standard 24-hour period.
You do have a member comment too, sir.
Okay.
Chuck Marino?
Let's go ahead with the member. Mm-hmm.
Hello, Chuck Marino here. You know, I think you guys are going in the right direction, but again, you need to have proactive, you know, patrol, looking at these trailers that are parked there for days on end. But I don't have anything against people unloading and loading. You know, that's part of our community. We're a recreation community. But again, we need to patrol it, be proactive about it. I can't tell you how many times I see it, and it goes on for days. But thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Other comments, Harmony?
No, not this time.
So Corey, I'm curious. I think what Chuck says that we've all observed, even tonight driving home, and these folks look like they're camped down on the curb. And if this rule really, even without revision, has not permitted that to happen, do we have proactive enforcement of this rule, or do we need to have more enforcement, or what's your thought on that?
No, this is it's a good question. I would say this rule is something that we do enforce, although the citations are, you know, average about 2 to 2.5 a month. So it's certainly something that we've discussed with the patrol management team in terms of looking at RVs, especially with our graveyard shift. So it can certainly be something that we discuss again, and if we want to have I guess an added emphasis, then we can certainly do that as well.
What did you say? 2 citations a month?
Yeah, we've issued for the first 9 months, or excuse me, 8 months. We've issued a total of 22 written warnings and citations.
Okay.
Corey, question or two regarding this number 3 about general confusion on the definition of a trailer. I mean, I'm not that confused. A trailer is something that doesn't have its own motor and can't propel itself. So if you have an engine in the device, like an RV, it's a vehicle. If it's a non-engined device, like a fifth wheel or a toy hauler or a boat trailer, it's a trailer. It has to rely on something else to go down the road. So what is the confusion about a trailer?
So the confusion really lies between this rule and the next rule we'll discuss, which is 5.5C, which states no trailer parking after sunset. So in a sense, the two rules conflict each other. We have this rule which says trailer parking is available for 24 hours. And we have the next rule which says no trailer parking after sunset. So from an enforcement perspective, what we've been doing is for 5.5A, the way we've been enforcing it is essentially any trailer that has a plumbed bathroom, like an RV does, would fall under 5.5A. And then any trailer that didn't have a plumbed bathroom would fall under 5.5C. So that's really where the confusion lies, and we're trying to be more specific.
All right, well, I mean, I'm a belief that most trailers, not all, but most, are built to the maximum specification of 8.5 feet wide, which is much wider than the standard car. And if we allow those parked on the streets, especially one of our narrow streets in Canyon Lake, it creates considerable safety issues for drivers on the lanes trying to get around them. And so I think we probably have a good rule in the sense of prohibiting or at least limiting the amount of trailer parking there is on the roads. And if we have to somehow define it better, then great. But again, to me, a trailer is pretty easy to describe, whether it's hooked up to a car or separated from a car. It still doesn't have a motor, and it doesn't move anywhere unless something gets hooked up to it.
Part of the confusion is that the next rule we're going to talk about is that you could park your boat trailer connected to your vehicle on the car overnight, but horse trailers, utility trailers, all these other trailers were prohibited. So we were trying to address, and we'll get into it more detail in the next rule, what is the difference between a boat trailer being left on the street and every other trailer being left on the street? So we were trying to make it more consistent as well, because a trailer's a trailer's a trailer. In my simple definition.
I agree with that. A trailer's a trailer's a trailer, and we can't be saying one's okay and another one's not.
Well, that's what the next rule addresses. This rule addresses the RVs and the fifth wheels and that, so.
I'm curious, it seems that part of the concern here is people camping on the curb. And yet this is only talking about parking on the curb. Are we comfortable with people camping on the curb for 24 hours?
That's another rule, I believe, Corey.
Yeah,
right?
we already have a rule in place that I don't know it off of the top of my head, but we do already have a rule in place which prohibits individuals from essentially living in an RV.
I dare say when there's an electric cord running from the garage and a pop-out sticking out in the street, and somebody's living on that thing. So again, I don't understand the very few citations. I think all of us drive around this community and see this occurrence in many locations.
If we look at Mr. Jordan's community patrol report, his supplemental report, he does indicate that they're going to be starting enforcing some of these long-term street parking, no vehicles extended beyond the curb line, no parking of unsightly, stripped down. Anyway, so community patrol, based on their report, is going to be doing a focus on these kind of issues, Chris, that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Other comments? I haven't heard any negative comments, so we'll wait and see what the email delivers to us. How's that? Thank you, Corey. I appreciate you presenting this.
So,
Let's
I'm
move on
sorry,
to-
Mr.
Yes.
President, before we move on, the intent is to bring this for a 28-day reading next month. That is our intent of the discussion tonight, so.
I didn't see that written in the recommendation.
I understand, that's why I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
Okay, I think that's fine. It can come forward as a 28-day recommendation for a proposed policy change next month. And not hearing any negative comment about this, I'd say that we're on the right track. Thank you for that, Jeannie.
No problem.
Let's move on. Let's move on to revised rule GR 5.5C. Corey?
Okay, so this is the second rule that I was referencing, which is no trailer parking after sunset. So the background on this rule is, since 1984, the association has had a rule in place to restrict overnight trailer parking on the streets. While the exact reasoning for this rule is not known, it has been suggested that the rule was implemented as a safety precaution to prevent vehicles from hitting low visibility trailers at night. I want to remind the community that this community doesn't have streetlights, and so that was suggested as one of the reasons. Within the last year, this rule has been questioned by some community members as they use a utility trailer for work and have nowhere else to park the trailer when they come home. A lot of driveways here are very steep. So the proposed revision to this rule would have the following impact. Number one, trailers would be allowed to be parked on the street overnight, provided that they have proper reflectors and be attached to a tow vehicle. And number two, daytime street parking for trailers would be restricted unless the trailer was actively being used to provide a service. The fiscal impact for this potential rule change, again, is unknown, but for the first 8 months of this year, Community Patrol has written or has issued a total of 269 written warnings or citations for violation of this rule. So in a sense, we're doing a complete 180 on what the existing rule is, and I will read the proposed revised rule. So again,
excuse me, Corey, before you continue, I just got a message that our live feed has been interrupted. So I don't know if somebody needs to check on that. I think that's our Facebook feed, live stream.
I see it's live right now. We'll look at it.
Okay, just letting you know. So sorry, Corey, continue.
It's okay. So again, reading the proposed revised rule, it would, the heading would change to no trailer parking between 9 a.m. and dusk. Just a quick comment on that. What we talked about was giving members an opportunity, if their trailer's parked on the street during the evening, to get the trailer off the street. We looked at some local storage facilities, and the facility within the community, Summerwood Landing, opens at dawn. There's another storage facility right outside the north gate. They open at 7 a.m. So when we were discussing this potential rule change, we thought 9 a.m. was a reasonable time. Going to the rule language, it reads, no trailers, including but not limited to horse trailers, boat trailers, utility trailers, and any other similar vehicle may be parked on the street between 9 a.m. and dusk unless the trailer is actively being used to provide a service. All trailers and any other similar vehicle must display reflectors on each side, must be attached to the tow vehicle, and must be parked in front of the owner's property. This rule does not apply to RVs, fifth wheels, and camping trailers as noted in the above rule, which we just discussed. So again, the recommendation before the board is to discuss these proposed changes and provide feedback with the intent that we would bring this to you guys next month as a 28-day review.
Corey, I need a little clarification about how the red mark words match item number 1 that says the trailers would be allowed to be parked on the street overnight. Is that just implied in this, or is that not stated for some particular reason?
I think for us, the heading is no trailer parking between 9 a.m. and dusk. So yes, it's implied that it would be allowed overnight. Essentially, we're saying this is not allowed during this period of time.
Okay, comments from the community.
I believe we have Mary Calvert.
Okay.
Yeah, just one quick thing. He read boat trailers, but it doesn't say that in the written form. So it may be excluded by accident.
I saw that too, Mary, and it's actually under the revised rule that's not redlined. The boat trailers is included in that one. So we did catch that.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
We also have member Renee.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hi there. My only concern is the word dusk, because dusk is certainly different from a time perspective in winter than it is summer. So if you have an individual who uses their trailer for work or whatever that reason is, and they get home at 6 o'clock in July, there's a potential that they could then get a ticket because it's not yet dusk. Have you considered using a time?
it's something that we certainly can consider, and that's why we're absolutely having this discussion.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments, Harmony?
No.
Okay. Comments from the board?
Oh, I'm so sorry. We have member Bob and Diane Whiteside.
Okay, Bob?
You hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I was just going to add a suggestion. I know that is a problem when you say dusk, or what we do on the lake is almanac. When you say sundown, that's possible. That's something that's fixed. Almanac, sun up, sundown. On the lake, it's the same thing. Some people will say, well, it's still light enough out here, I can see, but so we have to have something that's constant. So we use almanac, sundown. I don't know if that's just given that as a possibility for something that you can't argue. We're all saying the same thing. Because it does
Thank you, Bob. I think
as the year goes by, it gets dark earlier and so on. So the almanac sundown, official sundown is 6:30 today, and it'll be 5:48 a week from now, and so on. But I don't know if that's possible. I guess who's going to want to? I guess you can park your trailer and say, I better check what the almanac is. It's only you could do. But other than that, yeah, there is going to be arguments. Somebody's going to say, oh, what's dusk? You be an hour off, and you say, oh, it's still a little light out.
I think the concern, Bob, was for folks that are working and coming home. This is something we heard a couple of times during public comment period in the board. They get home maybe at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and they want to park in front of their house. They have no other place to park. We want to make sure that's okay. If it happens to be June 26th, almanac sundown is probably about 8:35.
Yeah.
And are they going to get a ticket because they got home at 6 o'clock? So
right.
I think that's what Renee was talking about. And I think these are great comments. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Other board comments?
I'm going to just kind of reiterate what Corey said. This is basically doing a 180 on where we're at right now. And I'm not so sure that that's a good idea. I mean, I think when the daylight is right and you're able to see, that's the time when a trailer makes the most sense to be able to be parked on the street. And at nighttime, when it's something that you might hit, that's when it's probably why we have this rule in place and you don't want to have it on the street. Proper reflectors as being a requirement on a vehicle at nighttime is a great thing if we're going to do this, but I don't know why we would tell people that they can't park trailers on the street during the daytime hours when that's when people are mostly active. Nighttime is, I think you referred to as somebody coming home from work and they just get home and they don't want to detach their trailer from their car, so they want to park both things in the street rather than putting their trailer in their own driveway. I'd be more a proponent of putting it in their driveway or giving them a temporary pass or something for the overnight for a trailer, as opposed to just letting people park overnight in the streets, because our streets are going to become storage lots for the entire community. And we already have some places in the community where streets are already impacted by parking, and why we have these written warnings and citations that are going out is people are taking up streets parking places with their tow vehicles and trailers rather than allowing it for the members to have available curbside parking.
So why are boats okay, Tom, under the current rule, but no other trailer is?
I don't think they are. I think their rule says that boats can't be parked overnight either.
Not true. Boat trailers
if that's
carrying.
not the case, then I would say we should make that the rule too. But Corey, you can maybe expand on this, but I thought you could only park a boat with a trailer for something like 12 hours and it couldn't be overnight. And it's been a while since I looked at this rule.
Well, it's right there for us. It says boat trailers carrying a boat may be parked if attached to a towing vehicle for no more than one period from dusk to dawn any given day.
Right.
So it can park at night from dusk to dawn.
So we're a lake community, and it seems like that particular rule is giving somebody the opportunity to do that one time.
Okay.
For one period. And And I don't know that that's necessarily a great rule, because we have people that are abusing that rule even as it's written, where they just get up and move their car, 5 feet so that they can say that they weren't parked in the same spot. We have a problem with parking on the street with trailers, and this change in the rule seems to say, let's have a bigger problem. And I can't agree with this.
Well, I think the reason for the rule was to accommodate some of the people that actually work for a living that have to bring trailers home, and they don't have a place to put them, and they need a place to put them for just one night. It's not the beauty of this is that we're not allowing trailer parking on the street during the day at all, and that I think is a big improvement for the community. And by allowing the few people that will be able to take advantage of the rule and utilize it on the nights that they have to, that's just a bonus for them. But it's not going to allow people to leave their vehicles, the trailers, overnight or for any kind of extended period of time. It's going to be obvious at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if there's a trailer parked there, that he's going to get a citation. And I think it's actually beneficial to the community.
Again, I'm confused. I don't know why we would say somebody pulls up in front of their house with a trailer attached, and that's not legal during the daytime hours when they're most likely to be using whatever their trailer is, whether it be a fifth wheel, a boat trailer, a utility trailer. But at nighttime, that's okay. And then for the person who comes home with their utility trailer that you're saying is, say, a work vehicle, they're not going to put it in their driveway. And if their driveway is that cluttered with stuff that they can't get a utility trailer already in it in a 2 or 3 car garage with that many spaces in their driveway, it just seems like there's already so much stuff at that person's house. Why would we want to add to the nightmare in the street for that neighborhood?
Well, there is a provision in there if the trailer is actively being used. And the example was a gardener, but it certainly could be unloading your boat, unloading your utility trailer, furniture out of it, whatever it might be. But if it's actively being used, it's within the guidelines of this rule. Outside of that, if it's just sitting there and no one's around, then it's going to get a citation.
So let's just paint that picture. Somebody went to the lake for the day with their boat, and they went home to go get lunch, and they got their boat on their trailer, and they're inside having lunch. Is that active or not active? And who's going to make that decision? I mean, that just seems like a ridiculous ticket to write somebody because they parked their boat in their trailer in front of their house, and they're getting a ticket because it was daytime.
Well,
am I wrong? Tell me if you think that that's ridiculous, because I just think that this is what I look at here as that looks ridiculous.
Well, Tom, we're not making decisions tonight. I think you've made your point very clear. I think we're taking notes here about it, and we're in the middle of discussion. In my mind, we were aiming at the gentleman that told us that I don't remember if he was in the rental business or what kind of business he was in, but he had to bring a trailer that probably wouldn't fit in his driveway home with business equipment on it that he needed to leave early in the morning to deliver. I may have this wrong. And he was looking for some way he could get that thing parked legally. I think we talked about whether he could park it in his front yard, along his house. He could park it down in East Court. He could park it somewhere. But I think that was, in my mind, that was the situation we were trying to tackle here.
And that's what I think Joe talked with me about in respect to this guy who had received, I think, a citation in the past. And I'd be much more a proponent of something like the RV permit that we issue people when they either go the night before and they park their RV in front of their house, or the night after when they come home, so that they get one day to, unload their vehicle. But giving them that opportunity, and in talking to Joe, he was saying this isn't like a daily thing for him. It was more like a once every month or two routine that he would bring this utility vehicle home to Canyon Lake. So if it's happening on occasion, that seems like something we could handle with a special unique permit for a day, as opposed to just changing the rule for everybody in the whole community.
I just want to interject too. Part of this came up, Tom, from the appeals committee as well. When I was the liaison with the appeals committee, and I know Joe's experienced the same thing, time after time after time, people would come in to get their ticket. They would appeal their ticket for parking their trailer on the street overnight. but yet once again, it was okay for a boat trailer, but it was not okay for any other trailer. So the rule from a community perspective to me is in conflict. It shouldn't be okay for one group and not okay for all the rest. So
and I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I think that I've heard from people at the other end of the spectrum is people hook up their boat to their trailer, to their car, and they park it out in front of their house for days or weeks at a time and never move it. And we need to fix that problem, not add more things that you can do that with.
And I understand that, so I appreciate your input.
Okay, other comments from the directors? So was any consideration given, Joe and Jeannie, to this idea that you park the rig someplace else within the gate?
Well,
That particular issue that was brought to us?
my one experience with the homeowner, the conversation with him, and you did explain that just fine, was he's got a valuable piece of equipment on the trailer. It's exposed. It's on an open flatbed trailer. And there is no secure place that he can, in the community, that he can park his trailer and that he would be comfortable with. So I wouldn't put that burden on him.
And to piggyback on Joe's comment as well, then we might as well become a storage facility if we're going to say, okay, everybody can go park their trailers over at Holiday Harbor or Eastport during the night. I mean, they'll be there for days on end again. So I think we're just moving the problem from in front of a house over to another location.
Okay, I think that we've got, we understand the concerns. Are there any fresh concerns? We hear you loud and clear, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to move on and just say to Jeannie and Joe and Corey, let's go back and think about this some more, okay?
Okay.
I appreciate that. And if we need to come back with more discussion, we can do that. All right, let's move on to the next discussion item, which is the, I believe it's the Lodge Dog Park. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the Facility Planning Committee is on our list. Again, these are some concepts that they have. Jeannie's going to present, and we're looking to get some more ideas from the community. Go ahead, Jeannie.
Okay, thank you. The 2021 Board of Directors determined in outlining our guiding principles that it is important to our community that we continue to enhance our unique identity, that we ensure that we are family-oriented, and that we support the needs of a wide-ranging demographic, as well as support continuous improvements to enhance our amenities. The Facilities Planning Committee was tasked with soliciting member input regarding features to be included in a potential project to upgrade the existing large dog park at Eastport. And we've got some sketches and documents attached that we'll get to. Once again, this is a very rough order of magnitude cost, between $100,000 and $120,000 for the large dog park. And that was derived from basically a very simple math of doubling what the small dog park cost. The fund source could be a combination of repair and replacement as well as capital improvement. So right now it's just intended that the attached concept scope of work document and sketches be shared with the community to solicit input regarding features and the actual desirability of the project. We would like to receive comments prior to the November 9th Board of Directors meeting. Sorry, there's a typo in there. That's mine. So November 9th Board of Directors meeting. It is the intent of the board to make a decision at that time if we should proceed or not with the next phase of the project, which would include design development and a refined rough order of magnitude cost estimate. So once again, we're just looking, we wanted to present this written document as well as some sketches that one of our community members did for us. She's very active in the dog community or the pet community, and just to start getting member comments regarding what the scope should be and if we should even look at this project this year. So these are, I'm not going to read all of this to you. I think everybody has it in your package. And then some sketches that she did for us for the committee. So.
And this is going to be at the Eastport, where the dog park is presently, that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, it would take the existing large dog park and improve upon it.
Okay.
I like some of the ideas. An agility track for your dogs.
My dog needs it bad. So as I said, the intent is, and I guess I need to work with, we need to work with Harmony as to how we're actually going to share this out to the community, or Harmony and Lynn, and then we just want to continue to solicit comments from the community as to what they think about the project.
Well, I'm hoping that this presentation tonight and all this detail will stimulate some conversation. I'm going to turn to the community in just a minute for their ideas. But yes, I would like to make sure we have the opportunity for the community to weigh in on this. And then, like you said, we'll develop your concepts, your scope of work, if you will, and we can turn that over to a designer and go forward from there. So, do we have any comments from the community? Harmony?
We have Renee.
Hello.
Okay.
Just a few thoughts. When the small park was redone, they shortened the length of the large dog park. So my hope would be in this that they move the fence back and extend it the full length so it would equal what the large and small was. So that would be one thing when you're looking at it, because dogs just need to run. While a lot of these ideas are great ideas, my concern is on some of the water features or hosing to wash dogs' paws down, because there's a shower, I believe, outside one of the restrooms that they could take advantage of. And I would just be more concerned, especially after hearing from the water district's comments about the increase in cost of water. I would hate to see the cost of our water bill, ours being the community's water bill, go up for the water features. But it's a great idea. And then also I know there's a Canyon Lake dog community Facebook page, and it would be interesting to see if they could come alongside this project with some fundraisers to maybe pay for the agility track, or however some of the features that would go in there, and just to partner, have the community partner and get their hands dirty in raising some of the funds to achieve this goals. So
yes, several members of the club were involved in this initial concept too. So it's not new to them.
Great.
Janie, may I interrupt for a quick second? Just
yes, sir, please.
To clarify, the large dog park was not shortened, nor was the footprint of the small dog park. They measured out exactly the same after it was moved, just for clarification.
You know, and you're correct, and I'm sorry about that. I'm so used to, when I used to go there, the gate would be open if there were no small dogs, and then they would have the full run of both parks. So that would be something that I would enjoy seeing considered, to extend the length of it, since that area of the park where the small dog park used to be is not even used. I rarely see anyone there. Actually, I've never seen anyone there. So just something else to consider.
Okay, great. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Other comments?
I have none.
You know, I'm very interested. We have 30 people on the line. I have a hunch we have some dog park friendly folks. I think it's important that the community start to build momentum toward this idea, and I would really appreciate it if any of you that are online would speak up on behalf of this concept.
This is Mary Calvert again. I will. I think that this is a terrific idea, and would be in favor of supporting it in any way. I think the concerns about the water are valid, but they don't look like, it doesn't look like an enormous amount. So maybe that could be explored, because that cost is a little hard to manage.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else?
Bob and I on my side.
Hi, it's Bob. Yeah, everything looks good there. I don't know a lot about dog parks, but I do see the one feature of a pond, you know, that the dogs could run around in. That may be some kind of a problem with sanitary conditions. If it's, it's a closed system and then dogs are in there, I don't know what you do what would you do? Drain it on a regular basis? Does it get full of poop or pee and hair and the such? If it's not going to be a filtered pond, it's just going to be a pond, I suppose. Something Steve would look into, I suppose. Just
A lot more maintenance.
maybe more maintenance, maybe, yeah. So kind of like a big bathtub.
Mike Harris, I see.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I noticed that Mike Harris is on the line. I know that you're a dog park strong supporter. I wonder if you have any comments.
He actually sent an email to the board that I can read for him if he hasn't responded.
I appreciate that.
His email
Okay.
says, please go forward with the design. Be sure the DG is professionally installed and compacted. Mike.
You might have a
Okay.
mic issue.
I wanted to raise my hand.
Okay.
Talk some more.
All right. Any more comments about the large dog park? We will be gathering more input over the next month. And as I recall, Jeannie, your recommendation is you're going to come back next month with a recommendation to move forward on this. Is that correct?
Based on member comment, yes.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the petition for streets ownership request. Corey, I think this is yours.
Yes. Okay, so you stated it correctly. This is regarding a petition submitted by the Estates Committee to requesting that the association take over ownership of the streets of Black Horse and Sorrel. So I'll read through the background on this issue. Located in the hills between the town center and the Canyon Lake Community Church is the Canyon Lake Estates. The estates, which consists of 23 property owners, are large view lots of an acre or more. The ungated streets of Black Horse Drive and Sorrel Lane provide access for residents and are not owned by the association. In 2018, the topic of street ownership was discussed during an Estates Committee meeting, and a petition was circulated to property owners to gauge interest in requesting ownership. A lack of response from owners resulted in the topic not being heavily pursued by the committee. This year, after hearing concerns raised by residents regarding underage parties, excessive trash, noise, and smoking, the committee sent out another petition notice to property owners. This time, 14 of the 23 property owners signed and submitted their petition. This past month, the Estates Committee voted 4-0 to formally recommend that the Board of Directors request that the POA ask the City of Canyon Lake to vacate the streets of Black Horse Drive and Sorrel Lane so that they may be incorporated into the association. If approved, the association would look to add red curbing and resident-only parking signage to prevent loitering by non-residents. At this time, the fiscal impact would be minimal. The expense to paint curbs and install signage could be incorporated into the existing operational budget. So the recommendation before the board right now is to discuss the topic and, if in agreement, formally state their support to request that the city move forward with the change in ownership.
Just a question, Corey. If we take over ownership of those two streets, then we are responsible for their long-term maintenance. And we all know how much money we spend on our roads here in Canyon Lake. Is that part of the consideration, the significant long-term cost of taking care of these streets?
It is, and in fact, in I believe it was 2012 when we resurfaced the streets, we actually did both Black Horse and Sorrel. So we're already maintaining them.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments from the community here, Harmony?
We might have Bob Whiteside, or is that might be left over from the last one. Bob?
I'm sorry, Jeannie, I didn't hear you.
Oh,
did you have a comment on this issue?
Oh, no, I was still about the pond. That's all that was. I was done.
Okay.
I have no other comments.
Any comments from the board?
I have a comment. I know we say the fiscal impact's going to be minimal, but I think what about our legal costs to assume ownership of all of, I mean, I assume there's going to be some kind of legal cost involved with assuming ownership of the roads. I know, Corey, you said that we've done some maintenance back in 2012, but we're also going to have to make sure it is included in our current road study so that we know what our future costs would be as well.
Yeah, and after talking to Eric about this, he did indicate that there would be some legal fees involved to make this transition occur. He also did indicate, though, that there may be some potential legal fee savings for when it comes to the replacement of the monument signage,
right?
Easements. So
I understand
there would be some costs in there.
Yeah, I just think we need to make sure that we understand the full impact, not just some red curbing and signage, but there's legal issues. There's probably refiling of some kind of property stuff, like my technical terms there, as well as we do need to make sure that the long-term maintenance of the roads is included in our plan. I don't know if it is or not.
Corey, can you speak to the monument issue and the easement on the monument? I know Eric mentioned that in his notes, and as an advantage to absorbing the property.
I can speak very generally. So from what I understand, we're having some issues obtaining an easement to reinstall the monument signage for the estates. And so I think Eric's line of thinking here is that if we were to own the streets, go through that process with the city, then the easement issue would I don't know if it would go away, or if it would just be, since we would now own those streets, the easement would be ours.
Yeah, I can comment on that, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. So the proposed estate signage is in the city's right of way, so we need their easement for it. If we own the cities, it would be our right of way, so we could go ahead and place our signage.
I'm sorry, Steve, I had a little trouble understanding. So again, please.
So since the cities own the street, they have a right of way off the curb. I believe it's about 5 feet off the curb. When we assume the ownership of, or if this goes forward and have the ownership of the streets, that right of way would be ours, where we'd be able to place the signage within that right of way. Currently, right now, our proposed location for the signage is in the city's right of way.
So we would not be imposing on homeowners' property?
No.
For signage?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't believe I see where it's recorded, but would this include providing security gates at these two streets?
Not immediately. That was discussed as a long-term goal / wish list item by the Estates Committee, but this proposal at this moment is just to take over ownership of those two streets.
I think I'll add to Chris's point that many of the comments made by this recommendation include the idea that there are people traveling up and down the street that are leaving trash behind, leaving things behind, and I try and restrict anybody from going up that street, which would mean unmanned gates like Big T and Skylink. So that's, to me, got to be a part of the total idea of acquiring the streets. And second from me is, why would the city give something up for nothing? Is there a reason that they would have to just voluntarily release their ownership of these streets, or would it also involve some other give back? And what would that be?
I understand there's a member waiting to comment. Was his hand up, Chris Malone?
Sure, sure.
Chris Malone?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I am one of the homeowners that has not signed the petition to deed the streets to the POA. And my hesitation is we've been here for 23 years, paid the same dues as everybody else, and yes, we've used the lake and all the amenities. Honestly, enjoy not having gates to when friends come and go or vendors come and go. I'm not totally against it. But personally, because in the last 23 years, everything's just worked just fine without the POA, other than what the POA does, and it's, to enforce the rules, but owning the streets, it hasn't made a difference to us either way. I'm just curious as to what, other than red curbs and signs deeding the streets back, what are we going to get? And I personally don't have any experience with people littering, or parties going on at the end of the street. That's not happened in front of our property, but we're at the bottom of the hill, not the top of the hill. So I just, I would like to be more involved in this. I did speak to Eric Keskoff and Mr. Schneider probably about a year ago about the monument signs regarding the easement on our property, or the requested easement on our property, which I said no. At the time we discussed other options, and I think that's where it kind of stalled. So I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, but there has to be a compromise somewhere as far as at least the monument signs. That's all I have to say right now.
I'm just curious, Chris, about the concern about the monument signs. Seems like a small piece of dirt to me.
It is, except that if you looked at where it's going, or it's proposed to go, there's a tree that will block it going eastbound. So you've already passed it by the time you've seen it, if you've seen it at all. Our property line goes down to within 3 feet of the sidewalk. So there's a 3-foot band of landscaping that runs between the sidewalk and our property. Someday I hope to build a wall there to extend, because right now my fence is 15 to 20 feet off of the property line. So if the sign goes up there and I build a fence/block wall because of the noise issue over here, it's going to block your sign. And are you going to stop me from building my wall, potential wall, because now there's a monument sign there. So to me, it seems like it's got a better chance of being a semi-round monument sign on the west side and one on the east side, just like if you drive east to Menifee, they all do, just like you drive in the main gate. We've got 2 semi-round signs that you can see from both directions. I'd like to show you the drawings that were presented to me, or drawings and pictures that I looked at and measured and went, that doesn't make sense.
Chris, real quick, after our meeting with you, we actually did go back to the drawing board, so to speak, and your curved idea was considered and also taken, that it would be a curved wall, half wall at the sidewalk that curved around when it goes onto the street, and just simple signage, standoff signage like we've done at the east gate would be implemented there. Our current plan was not, we abandoned the current plan that was presented to you.
Okay. All right, so as I understand it, listening to the meeting tonight, if the streets were deeded to the POA, that would take your issue with the city about the easement?
Correct.
Correct? Okay. All right. All right, point taken. That's it for me again.
Would that, if we took ownership of these streets, would that change our responsibility as far as community patrol, or the city's responsibility in terms of code enforcement? Or are we just responsible for it now anyway?
So,
maybe Corey needs to answer that question.
Yeah. So yes, that would then become community patrol's responsibility to enforce the association rules up on those 2 streets. And code enforcement would not be involved unless, I don't know that specifically, actually. I don't know the extent of what code enforcement may or may not enforce, but I can tell you that it would be the responsibility of community patrol to enforce.
So does that mean it's not community patrol's responsibility now?
Yes and no. We still go up and monitor those streets for rules violations occurring on members' properties, or we can assist in asking people to leave if they're loitering. We will. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We have 2 member comments.
Okay.
Bob Whiteside.
Hi, I had one more thing to add. It's along the lines of Jeannie's concerns. If we were to take over, we'd have liability of those streets. So if somebody was to, for instance, go high speed or drag race or just drunk driving on that street and was to kill another person, and now we own the street, wouldn't that be a liability there that we don't have currently? Because we'd be the owners.
I'd have to say we'd have to look into that. I don't know the answer. Corey, do you have an opinion on that?
I don't know the answer to that either.
Okay.
Other
comments?
Yes, we have Renee.
Thank you. This piggybacks on what's already been said about the liability and or the financial cost. And while I hear that there's going to be some, that needs to be defined. So it's important. I'm glad it was brought up about the legal cost, because what might be some to one person with a massive budget, is something else. So if some is $5,000, that's one thing. But if some is $50,000, we really have to look at it from a budgeting perspective, whether it makes sense to do this, because it seems like all this is assuming a liability for both the cost of the roads and then future, what's the cost to put in gates at both those streets, because I can see that happening down the line, especially if we do have liability, potentially if there was street racing. If we do have liability, if we own the roads, then yeah, we're going to want to put gates up there just to try to, as much as possible, protect our safe and mitigate those risks. So it's really important that before this is done, that the people who are putting this together present all costs to the board. And then of course, so we can see it as well. If this is going to be $100,000, $200,000 purchase, if you will, because that's very important, very crucial. So I appreciate Jeannie for bringing that up initially, because that's a huge concern. That's it. Thank you.
Other comments, Harmony?
No, sir.
Okay, any more comments from the board? Well, I think we've had a good discussion and we have some good suggestions. I think the whole issue about liability and costs and is something that we're going to have to get our arms around before we get too much farther down the road. So I appreciate that very much. Okay, I'd like to move on to discussion item 713, the Estates Committee Review of Security and Access. Jim Berringham, you have a report for us?
Yes. The Fairway Estate Committee met on September 17th, 2020. One of the items we discussed was access and security. The consensus of the committee was that there were no major issues identified. There were some questions that were in an open board meeting considering the security and issues like that. But when we discussed that at the committee meeting, they did not seem to be worried about anything as far as that goes. As a follow-up to this meeting, I met with various staff members to better understand any minor issues of the Fairway Estates needs and concerns from their perspectives. And this is something I'm new to the Estates, so it's kind of a learning thing for me personally, And so I asked a lot of questions. So as a board member, I know one of our board principles is to ensure continuous improvements to enhance our services and community. Therefore, I am including the facts, observations, suggestions in improving the access and security to our Fairway Estates community and to better inform current standing procedures. So this is what I learned through the process. On the security issue itself, community patrol goes through that area at least 6 times a day in a 24-hour period. So it's not like once a day or twice a day. There's no set time for security reasons so that somebody can't be monitoring. Well, security goes at 8 o'clock every morning and 10 o'clock. So that's why it's there's not a specific time. There's also devices where they can check whether they went through it, and we can track what community patrol is doing. In September of 2019, the access control cameras were updated or replaced as needed, and additional security cameras were added at both entrances at the Fairway Estates. So that was done again to bring the equipment more up to date and to be able to get people in and out with the later technology. Both entrances at the Fairway Estates are monitored by Community Patrol 24 hours a day. So no matter whether you go through the Big Tree Drive or the main gate, they are monitored. What I did find out, and this is actually a project that is in operations now, that the Big Tree Drive gate needs to be replaced. Apparently it's outdated. So I would like to make a recommendation that we move forward on this, because any kind of gate failures there would create a backup into Railroad Canyon. So I think that would be a good thing to move forward on. I don't think it's gonna, I don't know exactly what the cost, but I'd like to see us do that. The other thing that I noticed, and this is the piggybacking through, that issue is happened with these type of gates. The only thing I would suggest, and I don't know if this is feasible or not, but if by replacing some of the gear, I'll call it, that we could get that gate to open and close quicker. When I timed it, that gate was open about 45 seconds, which would actually allow a second car to come through, third car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if there is a way of enhancing that so we could shorten that, so one car would go through, that gate would start to close right away, I think that would perhaps help on that piggybacking thing. With the Community Patrol service contract that's scheduled to renew, this would be the time to make any recommendations. Should be considered this time with Community Patrol if we feel like we need anything else up in the estates. For those that are interested, the next committee meeting is on November 19th, 2020 at 4 p.m. at the Magnolia Room at the golf course. So from the committee standpoint, they're pretty happy. Those are a couple things I observed I think would actually make it better and safer.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So do we have any comments from the community?
No, not right now.
Okay, comments from the directors?
Yeah.
Not at this time. Well, other than the opening and closing times, I'm sure there's some kind of manufacturer's reason why it's delayed to 45 seconds or whatever. So I think we, if that's something we wanted to look at, we should definitely work with the reason why it was set for 45 seconds.
Steve, could you help us out with that maybe?
Sure. So the gates are programmable for different times. They're on dip switches where there's different opening and closing times, and so it can be set. I believe they were set to the recommendations of our vendor. So.
And I'm sure that's based on their knowledge of safety and damage to cars from gates closing too quickly, that kind of stuff, right?
Correct.
Steve, could you comment on the Big T gate? I know we discussed that. Maybe the board would be more interested from more technical position than what I have.
So the big T gate is in need of replacement. It's functioning. It's doing its job, but it's coming up on its useful life. So looking at replacing it before we have a major failure would be in our best interest to go ahead and do so we can serve the community.
About how much does that cost?
I do not have formal estimates for it.
Is your sense that that's within your spending authority for repair and replacement, or is that something that's going to come to the board?
It most likely be within the authority.
Okay. All right.
That's where I was going with that, Chris. It just seems like if it needs to be done and it's within their authority, that they just do it.
Yeah, it's just get it in the schedule, take care of it. I am interested in this idea about the 45 seconds. I don't know how we decide that. Maybe we consult with some experts that we know, whether we can open and close those gates quicker or not. I don't know.
I can reach out. Sorry, Chris. I was going to just suggest I could reach out to our vendor and open up another discussion with them, and so I can give you a definite report or maybe a recommendation from them.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list, and it all seems like some really good observations and suggestions, but I don't see any of this really that requires much board action. It really falls to operations. Please disagree with me if you think that's wrong. Operations and community patrol. So to you and Corey, if you think you need board action on these things, then let me know.
Okay.
I think that I can't speak for all the directors. I'm interested in what the directors have to say. Are you interested in seeing these things implemented this year?
I definitely am.
Thank you, Jim, and I appreciate you doing this.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I have no problem with seeing this stuff implemented if that's what the committee wants and our committee liaison feels is necessary.
These all seem like positive things for the Fairway Estates, so yeah, I'd be glad to see that happen.
Tom? You're on mute, Tom.
Don't wake him up.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I agree with what the others have all said.
Okay. So, Steve, we're going to leave this in your hands and Corey. I agree with the notion it would be nice to handle this because we have had some concerns raised. And as you know, we're very interested in trying to recognize the concerns that our community comes up with and try to deal with them as we can. So we'll look forward to maybe in your reports, things that you have accomplished in this regard. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to move on to our last discussion item. This is walking on the golf course. And I'll present this. This is something that I'm interested in, and I get a chance to read this. You know that I really think we're in transition. I've said this before. We're moving from a vacation and retirement community into a kind of a diverse, family-oriented community that matches our wide-ranging demographics and interests. And those are big words, but the truth of the matter is that's who we're becoming. There's more call for places to walk safely. In fact, I recently read a post that said that somebody wished we had sidewalks and lights and street lights. Well, we've talked about that for a long time, and that's not how Canyon Lake was built, and we're not talking about that tonight. We have recognized this need, and I'll remind you that we completed a walking path all the way around the Lodge Tennis Complex, which is really a very delightful place to go walk. You get a good walk. If you need to walk around it twice, I suppose that's okay. But that is available to us. And then just recently we added the striping along Longhorn Drive and Continental Drive, and from what I understand, that has really provided a much safer environment. And I hope, I don't know, but I hope that has encouraged more people to take advantage of those 2 long stretches to walk and exercise their dogs and enjoy the fine weather we have most days. Of course, during the COVID closure of our golf course, we adopted an emergency rule which gave everyone permission to walk on the golf course. And you know, I live on the golf course, so I speak from first-hand observation. Hundreds of people got out and walked on the golf course, and they enjoyed it. I did. It's a very pleasant place to be. It's a wonderful park setting. It is designated as a golf course, and so we have to be very careful about that. But when the golfers are not there, it's interesting to talk about being able to walk on that course. The thing I observed was that in general, and I know there's some exceptions to the rule, but in general, almost everybody that walked on the course walked on the paths and walked in a manner that was not destructive to our golf course at all. In fact, just the natural play of golf is harder on our course than folks walking on it. But letting that be what it is, we do have a couple of areas, a cart path that comes down next to 1 and a cart path on 14 that are thoroughfares for people to get to the clubhouse and with their golf carts. We're a golf cart community, and so we have that occurring regularly, even with the golfers there. And there's generally a good understanding about the people that are running their golf carts when they see golfers, what they're supposed to do. So that the notion that we're an uninformed community completely, and it's way too dangerous to allow something like this, I'm not sure is completely founded, though it is something we need to be very careful of. Our golf course is closed for maintenance on the second Monday every month, and there is more equipment out there, and sometimes there's chemicals put on the grass and all that makes it difficult, but there are those closure days that could be available for walking. We also have in October, we're about to approach that right now, starting October 12th, our reseeding period. That period is about 3 weeks long, and the first couple of weeks, nobody can go out there because they're in the process of seeding and watering almost 24/7 with non-potable water, reclaimed water, to get the seeds so that they can germinate. And then the last part of that, when the seeds are germinating, the watering stops, then there is an opportunity there. The board has been asked to permit walking on the golf course during these times. That's why this is being brought up again, and I'm a broken record, but I'll say again, I'm very interested in trying to address the things that we hear in the public comment period and bring thoughtful consideration to them in response to those who are suggesting them. So I posed 4 questions in my write-up. Is it a good idea to allow people on the golf course once a month and during the October closure? And you know, this October closure is not part of the deal because we'd have to have an emergency rule right away, and that would be tonight, and that's not possible because we didn't do it. So we're really talking about next year, but on our Monday closures, that would be something that we could put into place sooner than later. Would additional signage and patrolling provide adequate safety? We want to worry about that. We want to worry about our liability. Are there really that many people who would be interested in walking on the golf course once a month for a day? Is that really something that would cause us to want to go through the process of making sure people understood the rules, had proper signage in place? Or is all this going to cause too much confusion and ultimately lead to somebody getting hurt walking on a non-closure day? So those are the issues. Those are the reasons why we're having the conversation. Very interested in the public comments. Do we have any public comments?
No, not right now.
Okay, that's fine. Comments from the directors. Shall I call on you, Joe, or do you want to speak first?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to go last if anybody else would like to speak.
I have a member comment too.
Well, go ahead. Let them in.
Go ahead.
Okay, Bob Whiteside.
Oh, hi, it's Diane, Bob's wife. I just wanted to give my full support for this idea. It's been something that's been on my mind for a very long time. That it's such a beautiful environment, the golf course is, and you know, it's an amenity that non-golfers would like to be able to enjoy, and to be able to walk it even just this once a month would, I think, is a very nice change of pace than walking the streets. And also, it also might promote people being out there and saying, you know, I think I might just want to take up golfing. You know, it could provide that opportunity for us to get more members golfing. But I think, yeah, I think if there was, we could have some signage out there where the entrances to where the paths start. You know, showing that there are walkers, that these are the walking entrances, and
just proportion.
And I think, yeah, I think just awareness. I don't think that it should cause much confusion, and we just deal with it, you know, as we move along through this, and things may come up, and then we address those. But I don't really see how there would be any big issues.
Just proportion.
But anyways, I just wanted to let you know that I'm very excited and very happy to see this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Other member comments?
Yes, sir. We have Kristen Cross.
Hi. As I've lived there for 17 years, and I am a golfer, and I just worry about the confusion. I mean, it's a sanctuary. It's a beautiful course. I'd hate to see it wrecked. I'd hate to see one kid get hurt on a wrong day, because we all know those golf carts are fast. I think it's dangerous, and I think there are plenty other beautiful places to walk right out the back gate, all the paths and Audie Murphy and stuff. I don't know. It just seems dangerous.
Thank you.
Renee?
You know what? I'm actually going to put my hand down. I'm going to hold off for now. Thank you, though.
Richard Schwartzman?
Oh, am I? All right.
There you are.
Yeah, so I definitely see this as being, you know, both ends of this, is that, you know, there are risks, there are some issues with, you know, really this is a family community. And so, I mean, myself, I have 2 small kids. Walking on the golf course sounds like a pretty awesome day. I golf there pretty actively 1-2 times a week. And I could also see the risk with it. It could be a huge benefit. I think with proper signage, we could get to a point where this could be something as a benefit, because there are no sidewalks around. That's also a risk too. So to say that, you know, walking on a golf course is more risk than walking on the street would be hard to say. But that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next, Tony?
That's it for now.
Okay. Directors?
Move your hand.
Oh, well, no.
Oh, did we have Bob again? You want to speak, Bob?
I don't.
Oh, it's Diane again. I just want to emphasize again that we're talking about just on maintenance day, or when the golf course is closed. There's not going to be a lot of other golfers. So now we're really reducing the risk of, you know, of golf carts and people.
Okay, thank you very much, Diane.
Thank
you. Directors, opinions, please. Joe wants to go last. Jim?
You know, I knew nothing about the golf course when I ran for the board, and I asked Joe, I said, Joe, could you take me for a ride around a golf course? And I'll never forget that. And it's a beautiful ride. And I understand both arguments, but, you know, it is really a privilege to be able to ride around a golf course, even though I'm not a golfer. It is a beautiful ride. So you know, I would not want to infringe upon the golfing community's opinion on the safety issues, but perhaps, you know, I'm with whatever the golfing community feels is the safest and best, probably for that amenity. But I would like to, at least maybe you could offer some golf rides once in a while to the community so that they could actually see what they've got. It's really a nice run.
Jeannie?
I'm for opening up for walking. You know, like we've been saying, we're trying to be all inclusive, and I just think this would even possibly, because it is such a beautiful area, encourage people to join some of the many golf clubs and become annual members. So I'm all for allowing it to be done in a safe manner.
Tom?
Yeah, I believe that you probably have a problem with the fact that I think you pointed out is just identifying which days are okay. If it's limited to the closure days when nobody else is on the golf course, I'm not sure that we have great safety issues. We probably want to make sure that we have people understanding about cleaning up after their pets. But when no one else is out there, it seems like a great idea. Like I said, the problem is going to be on the days when people are playing golf, members maybe being confused about not being able to walk on the paths and understanding why the days are only on those closure days as opposed to every day.
Okay. Joe?
Okay, well, I spent a lot of years on the Green Committee and participated in the golf course quite a bit. Back in 2017, we were asked by the FRC committee at that time to consider walking on the golf course. Green Committee evaluated all the options and considerations, and all the way from regular everyday walking to walking on maintenance days only, or course closures, to walking on evening hours or whatever. They pretty much couldn't come up with a reasonable way that we could, allow that to happen and still incorporate the protection of the golf course as well as the protection of the members. A little bit of history about the golf course is that our golf course, as nice as it is a small golf course by standards. It's 85 acres. Typical golf course will run between 100 and 150 acres, maybe larger. Those type of golf courses have a little bit more room to spread out and allow people to walk on the golf course and not be in jeopardy. We're also known for our narrow fairways. One part of the challenge of our golf course is you have to hit the ball pretty straight and keep it in play. And with people walking 30, 40 feet off the center of the fairway, or 30, 40 yards, I'm sorry, off the center of the fairway, they're definitely in jeopardy. So I think, and based on the comments I hear, I think it's safe to say that we all understand that it would not be beneficial for members to walk on the golf course during regular play days. So that leaves us with two options. And one of the ones we considered was to shut down the golf course in the evening on a regular basis, whether it was 2 or 3 days a week or 5 days a week, whatever it would be. We talked about that possibility and came up with some concerns. And one of them was that there's a number of people that like to come in after work or after school and get out on the golf course for 9 holes or 18 holes, whatever they can get in. And this would take that benefit away from them. If we do close down the golf course early, it's going to have loss of revenue. That's a big factor because a big concern in the community is the deficiency that the golf course has with their budget. So that's a concern. If you got people walking on the golf course when people are finishing playing golf, you've got to have some enforcement, and there's a cost involved there. So you're not only losing revenue, you're adding cost. Obviously, that's something for the board to consider if they want to absorb that expense for the benefit. That's up to them. The other option would be to use the course when it's already closed, which is what most people were talking about. Maintenance Day is the second Monday of each month. It's closed all day. The thing is, they do that for a reason. And the reason is they can be more efficient working on the golf course when there's nobody there. They don't have to worry about the chemicals they use, the reclaimed water that they spray on the golf course, especially during the summer when they do all their watering at night, but during the summer they have to do supplemental watering during the day. And we have reclaimed water, and with our agreement with Elsinore Water District, we cannot water the golf course when there are golfers present or when there are people present. The maintenance crew is working all over the golf course at different areas. They're running their vehicles from one end to the other. So there's a concern for vehicles running on the cart path to the different areas. And maintenance day is a guarantee you're going to have vendors come in, and we schedule tree trimming every maintenance, I believe it's every maintenance day, to come in with their large trucks, large equipment, and do their work around the golf course. Also, Tuesday work group or even the operations department might have a large project, in which case we're going to bring in concrete trucks and tractors and whatnot. We just finished the lake renovation. While that work went on even during play, there were a large number of large pieces of equipment, and it was pretty disruptive. Chemicals, I mentioned earlier, they use chemicals, and we just heard of a golf course that misapplied. They applied the chemicals and it got transferred from the fairways onto the greens, and it was very costly to repair the greens because of the chemicals that were applied on the fairway got transferred to the green. Wasn't from walkers, but those are the kind of concerns that we have to to be careful. They do aerification, they do verticutting. There's a future irrigation project that we hope is going to happen this year. Those are all things that are going to happen on the golf course, and maintenance day is going to be a good day to catch up on all the work that isn't done during golf play days. So someone had mentioned signage. Signage is a good thing when you want to direct people in the right place. Signage is a terrible thing when you're on a golf course where you just want to see the green, the trees, the bushes, the fairway. You don't want to see a bunch of signs. So that's not conducive to a golf course. As effective as they might be, it's not what you want to see on a golf course. Some general concerns that the Green Committee had was scheduling concerns. While you can say the second Monday of every month is maintenance day and you can go out and walk on the golf course, what happens to the person who says, oh, this is Monday, I'll go walk on the golf course, and it's the third Monday or fourth Monday, and they're out there before they realize that they're in the middle of play. So I think the confusion there would present a whole new problem. On a golf course, it's a living thing, and it is, while it's the fairway turf and the tee boxes are nice Bermuda grass, they have to be maintained well. What we really are invested in is the greens and the bunkers. We have an awful lot of effort and money and work invested in those, and if those get damaged in any way, it's going to take a toll on the community. Someone mentioned picking up after your dog. That's all good and fine if they do it. If they don't, it's going to be left behind for one of the golfers to find. It's not anything that we want to see happen. Security, enforcement, manpower, these are all concerns that we have. I think I wouldn't want to see anything happen in this direction without a committed direction from the board of directors to provide more security during this time that we would allow golfers. And one of my last points would be the golf course is open, access to the golf course is open to the public. People can come in, drive in, park their car, walk up, and if they're not going to play golf, they don't have to go to the pro shop to check in. They can just get on the walking path and walk. This may not disturb most people, but some people might be concerned to have public walking in their backyard. They're basically in their backyard. The public access on the course is another concern. It was already mentioned that some of the alternatives that we have, which would be the lodge walking path, I think it's a great addition to our community. The BLM land outside the fire station, and then the trails that are outside the East Gate. I hear, I don't live over in that area, but I hear wonderful things about those trails over Audie Murphy. So I can speak for the Green Committee, who has taken a very strong position to be not in favor of opening up the golf course for walking. I hope
Okay, thank you, Joe.
the board understands it.
Appreciate a comprehensive report. Do we have any more comments from the members?
I believe I might have a Chris Malone.
Chris Malone, did you want to comment on this?
No, I'm sorry. My computer went dead and I went to just watch the end of the meeting, so I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Okay, no problem. All right, I'd like to move on past.
No, leave it, honey. She's looking at you.
I'd like to move on now to member comments on non-personnel issues. Item 8.
All right, well, just say you had your hand on.
This is a.
And you can talk about it now.
We need to. Bob and Diane, could you turn your mic off? Thank you. We're ready for our public comments.
Well,
we have public.
Chris, I have my hand up. I just
do it again. It's off.
Don't just go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, yeah. A couple of things there. One of them that I had never thought of, and Joe brought up. It'd be a good idea. He said that there was a time in 2017 when one of the recommendations was to evening walking. Well, I have a respect for the people that would want to come in and after work or after school and golf, but the needs of the community. There's a lot of our dues that are put forth for this golf course, and it's not one of those things where we don't use it, so we just shouldn't pay for it. On the contrary, this reasoning is we do pay for it, and that's great, but we do want to use it. So I don't know how many members would come in after hours or after school. I think it's a very minuscule number compared to the number of people that would walk, because there's an awful lot of members in the community compared to even the numbers if you counted all the golf club members and public or residents. So
I appreciate your point, Bob.
Yeah,
but I really must point out that we have a number of amenities that have designated purposes, and the fine line that we have to decide as a board is how we can allow multiple use of amenities. You get to the water ski course in the North Lake.
Yeah.
That thing has got to be there for the water skiers. We have issues around that. We're dealing with it. The tennis courts have to be protected for tennis players. And I could go on and on, but I think the points have been made tonight. It's been a very great discussion. I wanted to hear all that the Green Committee had to say, and the board's going to take this under advisement. So we're just listening right now, and I appreciate everyone that's made some contribution, but I would like to move on.
Okay, well, this is one last thing I bring up, because this was something I was going to bring up as an issue for the community. The Greens Committee could even think about this, is yes, there is a problem. If somebody was to just walk up, they don't have to go through the clubhouse. They could just walk in. Now they'd be through the gates, essentially. But that already occurs. This is a concern I have. When someone comes
Bob,
up. And they
Bob,
rent it.
please.
Yes. All
Bob,
right.
please.
Yeah.
I want to move on. We can't monopolize this meeting. I've got to keep things moving along. I think the points have been made. I appreciate all that that you contribute to our community, but I really want to move on to our public comment period.
All right.
Harmony, do we
Duly
have
noted.
any? Do we
No,
have
sir.
anybody that's raised their hand for public comment?
No, we
You
don't.
said no. Okay, that's fine. No public comments. Then we're going to move on to our association reports. This is going to be the Assistant General Manager's report tonight. Lynn, you might say a couple of words about Eric, and I don't know if you've heard from him or not, but give us a little update, and then please give his report.
Sure. Good evening. Yes, so I'm filling in for Eric tonight. He's taking some vacation. So we're happy for him, and we've tried to encourage him to not check the email and just enjoy his time off. So I'm filling in for him tonight. I just had a few updates that I wanted to give everybody. Jeannie kind of mentioned it, and we thought we'd give a little quick reminder. The November board meeting is going to be on Monday, November 9th, due to the election. Some of the updates include the Canyon Lake Living Fall Edition went out online yesterday, and it will be distributed in the Friday Flyer on the 9th, this Friday, so look for that if you get the Friday Flyer. It's a really nice issue that came out. One thing that we have started, I don't know how long back, but we have our Flickr photo album, and there's a link to that on our website and in our news. And for those of you that don't like to read updates, there's some amazing photography in there of all the projects and ongoing things. So we just want to encourage people to check those out. To give a couple of stats from our association report. So all the department reports Eric always mentions are in the back of the board book. And our communications report, they include stats on how many people are subscribers. So just a couple quick stats. Our newsletter followers is a little over 3,000. And our Facebook followers is about 3,400. So we just want to encourage more people to sign up because the board's trying to provide updates monthly. We've started all kinds of board communications. So when you see on our webpage, the board's taking their time to provide information to the membership. So the more people we have engaged, the better. To give some activities updates, we have a Rock the Boat 2 concert coming up on October 17th. And it's going to be at the amphitheater at Holiday Harbor. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. also. We're excited. This is a more country-themed concert. We are working with the Register of Voters for the upcoming November election. They are looking at having availability for that at the Magnolia Room, so you'll get more news and information about that and upcoming information. The pool has gone to fall pool hours. And one thing with going to fall pool hours now is that we're not requiring the members to make reservations to use the pool. There's still a modified capacity, but because the amount of members that are going to the pool daily has decreased, we're not requiring the reservations. In addition to the fall hours, the parks are now on winter hours, so you'll see that that also has changed recently. We briefly talked about the committee chairperson meeting that's upcoming on October 28th at 4 p.m. and we'll send out a Zoom link and post all that information. Also upcoming, the Red Cross with a few clubs are sponsoring a blood drive on October 12th. That's going to be held in the Magnolia Room. There's information in our news about that. One thing the members may or may not be aware of is the restaurants are now open for in-person dining. It is a modified capacity, but we have in-person and outdoor dining as well as takeout. And also in our stats, you'll see our planning and compliance department's been very busy. So we have noticed that while things have been closed with COVID, the planning and compliance department has been incredibly busy with members working on their properties. So they have had a lot of applications and a lot of things to look at. Operations, some of the projects that they're working on that you'll see in progress are the lodge ramp to the docks and the parking lot. That's still in progress. They're working towards getting that completed. The mailbox slabs is still an ongoing project. And then I think you all mentioned it, the golf course reseeding begins on October 12th and it's through October 25th. And the country club will be closed also during the closure. And those were all my items that I wanted to report on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn. I'd like to move on now to the board comments. Who'd like to go first?
You're probably tired of hearing from me, but I'll go first.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. We'll go back to the Green Committee. They actually have a position open for an alternate. If anybody's interested in serving their community and on the Green Committee, please contact operations or visit the website and get an application and submit it as an alternate for the Green Committee. They're currently working on a replacement for a large tree that had to come down that's adjacent to the new lake that went in. The roots from the old tree were affecting the liner, and it was decided a number of months ago that that tree had to come out. So the Green Committee wouldn't allow the tree to come out until they were assured that they would get a replacement tree. So that's going to happen hopefully not before too long. Green Committee meets on the second Thursday each month, 1 p.m. at the Magnolia Room, and guests are welcome. Tuesday work group, the volunteer group that works projects on the golf course on Tuesday morning. They generally take the summers off, but they're back to work now in October. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, they had elections. Sam Theodore is their new chairman, and we've got a lot of energy and a lot of good ideas for the group this coming year. Part of the projects that they typically do is sand divots on the golf course, trim bushes and trees. They do some smaller, lighter concrete work, fence work, and just a variety of other things that improve the golf course. They're a great asset to this community, and we appreciate all they do. They welcome new members. They would like to have anybody that wants to participate in the group and work on the golf course to just show up at the golf course maintenance yard, 8 a.m. any Tuesday morning, and they'll give you a coffee and donuts to boot. So it's worthwhile showing up to the meeting, and then work starts shortly after they have a short meeting. They ask that you be sure to bring a mask and that you make sure you're not having any symptoms, which I hope you're not. Fields Committee is still meeting twice a month. They're almost caught up with their backlog. Typical meeting can last 4 hours from about 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. But they're a devoted group, and I have to say they deliberate on every case to determine a fair resolution on your appeal. Keep in mind, fair resolution does not always mean no penalty, but rest assured they gave it fair deliberation and consideration. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I may have missed what you said. When is the TWG going to start up again?
They're back in session now. So they
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
They actually had a work day today.
Hey, Joe, before you stop talking, you might want to address a couple of the member concerns that the Greens Committee looked at with number 16, and then the other person's the homeowner that had some issues with tree trimming and bushes and stuff.
Yeah, I can mention that. On the golf course on two areas, the drought tolerant, well, one area is a periphery area that's behind the driving range, been neglected for some time, and we've got a comment from a homeowner putting her house up for sale and wanted the view to be a little nicer than it was. So brought it to our attention, and maintenance is going to step in and clear that area. Operations is going to do their share of work to clear some of the dirt and dress it up. It was just something that had been overlooked for too long, and it did require attention. On the 16th hole, there was work in progress already. It's a large drought tolerant area, our largest, I believe, on the golf course, and operations had been working their way up from the lower end up to the upper area and clearing the shrubs and bushes and weeds. and they hadn't got to this homeowner's area. The homeowner commented, and operations progress was just going to go into that, naturally go into that area and take care of it. So I don't know if it's already been done, but it's certainly, if not, scheduled to be done. So while we can't satisfy everybody in the community on the golf course, we can certainly address issues that are legitimate and have merit. So we'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
I can go next.
Okay.
The member comment that Joe mentioned earlier originally came to FPC. So after review with Joe, we felt it was more appropriate for the Green Committee to handle. So that's my member comment. The FPC, as you can tell from the 3 items we had on the agenda tonight, has been very busy. The next milestones for them are going to be they're going to be presenting back to the board in November their recommendations for the motorcycle parking areas. They're going to be working with Steve Schneider on some erosion control issues off the Longhorn Causeway area. And as Darcy mentioned, we've begun conversations regarding the fish habitat grant, and she's working with the appropriate water district people, and we're going to have a subcommittee that's comprised of FPC members as well as EVMWD members, and Tom, one member from Rec Committee, Joe Grasso, and they're going to begin talking about the grant application and what all that's going to entail. So that will be launched in November as well, and Darcy's been really great to work with on that. They are also putting together the 5-year plan, so I think the board is going to review the initial draft of that in November, and then we can have our conversations on that later. The Finance Committee, the Reserve Subcommittee is almost finished with their tasks. They're going to have their final meeting at the end of next week, I guess, with presentation to the full Finance Committee on the 20th. So they're on schedule with our budget timeline and process development. They are currently reviewing the fee schedule. It's generated quite a few, quite some interesting conversation, as Tom will remember from last year. And they're getting ready to begin their budget review with the department managers and stuff. So both committees have been extremely busy. Other than the member comment that we referred over to the Green Committee, FPC has not received any that I can report back on. So I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Jeannie. Jim, you want to go next?
Sure. I have to give credit to the FPC committee. They have the projects out there and we're actually moving forward. And as we see tonight, things that we approved to move forward, it's a continuous, want to continue working to make our property value go up and a community that we can all be proud of. And I feel like that this board is doing that, and I'm so happy to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Tom?
Nothing in particular, just a reminder to everybody that we do have an election coming up next month, so everyone should get out and vote. We have 3 city council spots that are open, and President of the United States, and a whole host of other things. So we'll be back here in session after that election. But happy Halloween. I don't know what a COVID Halloween is going to look like, but I'm sure we'll make our way through it. Thank you.
Well, I'm pleased to report that this is a very active board, and serving as your president is a kind of a tough job. It's almost a full-time job. We have quite a balancing act to try to become a diverse community that serves everyone and really meets the needs as we grow into the future. I do meet weekly with Eric and his team, and also on a separate meeting with legal. There's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes, which I think is being driven by our board principals. Very, very pleased with the Canyon Lake Living issue that came out this you're going to see tomorrow. It's got a tremendous amount of information, and I thank you to Tiffany and her crew for getting that done. We had an excellent club presidents meeting this last month, good communication and understanding, some good suggestions that are going to be going into place. I'm pleased to say that we've been able to receive all the 90% complete drawings for the pump track. include the specifications for the Sierra Park North completion and also the installation of the pump track itself. We're moving forward on a schedule that hopefully in the next couple of months is going to lead us to understanding what we can do in the coming months. And I appreciate the hard work that's going on there. We are looking at solar and the opportunity to put solar on our community. This is something we've talked about for a long time. It's complicated, it's expensive. It pays off in a reasonable amount of time, but that's underway. You'll be hearing about that as we go forward. The North Ski Area Task Force, I hope to get started up in October. Lots and lots of comments came, good emails. All have been set away into one special place. Good recommendations from folks. No decisions. Recommendations go from do nothing, leave it just the way it is, to some pretty significant changes, and we'll have a chance to deliberate that as we go forward. As far as dredging the lake goes, because I watched the dredge committee, hasn't met. We are still working to submit our application to the Army Corps of Engineers, and we have identified a design build, if you will, contractor that's interested in talking to us about doing the entire thing for us. And that's always an interesting option to consider. And then I sit with the ACC every week and go through their process. As was mentioned earlier, they're extremely busy, lots of work going on in our community. That's very exciting. They're working hard to make sure that we are true to our CCNRs. I want to encourage everybody please, when you're going to do a project that affects the exterior appearance of your home, please go to the ACC, go to Planning and Compliance, make an application, and let us go through this process together so that we don't have any problems going forward. Are looking to figure out how to streamline and make that process less time consuming, but it has to be done in a way that doesn't sacrifice the things that we're doing to achieve compliance with our CCNRs. And really what that means is to achieve compliance with why we all bought in here, because of the way this place looks, along with everything else. But that's one of the key aspects. So with that, I'd like to close our meeting or close this portion of our meeting and move our agenda on to the ACC appeal that we have before us. So Cheryl, are you ready to take us through that?
Yes, I am, and good evening again. We have Ms. Christian Kraus, who is appealing the ACC denial for parking on pavers in the front yard. Our inspectors noticed the pavers and basically sent out a courtesy notice letting them know that an application was required. And then the committee went ahead and she submitted the application, and it was reviewed by the committee, and it was ultimately denied. The denial was based off of the concrete pavers are not considered landscape material, and it's used for parking, sidewalks, and patios. And even though pavers can be permitted, the decision of the ACC committee was due to the PC 5.1, which I'm not sure who's has the control. If we can go to exhibit, I'm going to look here. Go ahead and go to exhibit A first, and we can show you what the actual plot plan looks like. The highlighted yellow area will show you where the pavers were actually placed. Okay, and that is next to the driveway. If we can also go to the next slide, or the next couple of slides, it actually shows pictures of it. There's a picture of the pavers in question. The addition of this pavers created less landscaping, which is in violation of PC 8.1. It also, if you look at that last picture right there, it shows a car parking, which is also in violation of PC 5.10. No car can be parked traversing the property. So ultimately, the committee did deny this application, and they have requested for those pavers to be removed. I believe Ms. Kraus is online, and I would like to give her the opportunity to be able to state her appeals.
Yes, thank you for that. So what you'll notice is these pictures were taken on July 15th. July 15th is Wednesday, and Wednesday is street sweeping day on Big Range. I'm not home 89% of the time. I work up in Oregon, but I was home because of COVID, and I had to drive my truck. So I have 3 cars in my garage. I had 2 cars in my driveway, and I had 1 car that I needed to get off the street because unlike the rest of my neighbors, I think the street needs to be clean. And if you look at the bottom, I mean, I am at the drain to the lake. So it's very important not to park there on street sweeping days. So I put this in, yeah, so that's, oh, go back up to the one which shows the front of the house. Right there, stop. You can see in the bottom left corner, that's the main drain to the lake. It's a parking, it's a car length at least. It's right in front of my house. So I don't have the luxury of parking in front of my house. And my neighbors had their cars out in force. So one, I hope someday we get reinforced street sweeping citations, but it was COVID, right? So some leeway, it still is. So this is one day where I parked there, and what I did, if you go back to the picture with the stepping stones, they're not parking pavers, right here. This is a walkway to the side of my house, okay, just to the right of that rose bush. I have to be able to get back there with my trash bin and trim that massive hedge. So I put what I thought, because it used to be mulch, and if you can see my neighbor's yard encroaching and that sprinkler right in front of the rock, that sprinkler breaks all the time and floods. I could not get to the side of my house to trim my hedge, to, you know, get the stuff away from my air conditioner, which is over there. And I do have solar panels, and they're great, by the way. My bill is like $2 a month now. But I have to get over there and make sure all that stuff is clear. So this is me being able to access the side of my house. If you can also notice all the pots that are stacked up by my door, those are typically out here on those stones. So like I said in my appeal, I am happy to move the potted plants back. Somebody took a picture one day where I was trying to be a good neighbor and not park in the street. It is not built for parking. I didn't do it, and I did it myself. So I thought I did a pretty good job of making the rocks match what was already in the yard and all that kind of stuff. So that is my humble plea, not to move those pavers, because I'm 55, you know, I'm not in great shape, and I need to be able to access the side of my house. And that was the way that I thought I could do it pleasantly, aesthetically. I do apologize for not doing the approval ahead of time. It never even occurred to me, since I was replacing bark dust with, you know, pretty white rocks and these lovely sandstone stepping stones I found at Lowe's.
This is John speaking for ACC. The committee went out there and we measured and found out that they are at the minimum 1/3 for landscaping. We were going to suggest that they remove and reduce the size of the pavers, because pavers are definitely considered sidewalk or parking items and not landscaping.
That's true, but I do
but
have
the
to
problem
access
is that I'm sorry, I let you speak. What do you want to say? Go ahead. Okay. So anyway, we were thinking about allowing it, but the problem is that they just don't have the 1/3 if the way they have done it. And unfortunately, they're parking across the front, blocking the view, which is in violation of 5.10. So.
Like I said, I will never park there again. It was one day, and it's a Wednesday, and it's street sweeping day. So it's not normal. And I moved all those pots out of the way so I could do that and get my car up the street. Yeah. Never intended to be a parking spot, intended for me to get safely, because I do my own yard work, to get safely to the side of my yard and not break my freaking neck, because it was always flooded. So. Again, multiple apologies, but I'd hate to pull them up, and I'm in Oregon, so I won't be able to do it for a while. I'm not planning on coming back for a while.
Yeah, I don't recall when we were out there that the street drain was red curved.
It's
so
not
you could
red
park
curved.
in front. Okay.
Well, you can, but on street sweeping days, right? If you look around the corner of Big Range where people park by the mailboxes all the time, 24/7, there are piles of sand. So as someone who makes sure that I keep all the grass away from my curb and keep that drain clear and not park when the water rushes, because it could, you know, it's dangerous, it pools there. and there are just clumps of stuff that come down because the street sweeping can't be done, and I'm the one who cleans that up when it rains. I am there in the winter. So I know it's not a red curb, but it was street sweeping day, so I could not park there.
If I may say so, I do understand what you're saying, Mrs. Kraus, and I believe that the reason why we noticed it in the first place was because the car was there. But unfortunately, you know, unknown to you, there were two, you know, rule violations here. I think what the committee was trying to say is that because of the 1/3 landscape, it is in violation of PC 8.1. If I may make a suggestion, I don't see where there would be an issue. We have in other areas all over the community, even with on concrete, where we have allowed, you know, the different types of potted plants to be placed on landscape to create them more. I don't know what the amount of landscape that it is, you know, how much more landscape it would require, but it would be a portion of the solution of maybe putting it there so where no cars can be parked, and that it would increase, you know, the actual landscaping.
Absolutely, and I believe I put that in my letter, that I'm happy to put the pots back. You saw there's a good half a dozen of them there, and they're pretty plants because I have that hideous propane tank in my front yard. So I am happy to put the potted plants back. It was just, you know, a series of events. So
and may I just make the remarks? The job that you did is not in question. The job you did was very nice.
Thank you.
We just don't want to be in violation of the rules.
Yeah, no, not at all. But I just thought it was a walkway. So I'm happy to do.
Okay, so I'd like to go to comments and questions by the board. Comments and questions?
Yeah, I have a question, and I guess I probably should know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So gravel is considered a landscape item, but these stones, I'm going to call them pavers, even though, you know, she doesn't classify them as pavers, are not considered the same as gravel?
Correct, because the concrete pavers, we actually approve those for parking material, for parking of, you know, vehicles and RVs, trailers, and things like that. They are made of concrete, so it's not considered landscape because they can park on it.
They can park on rocks too.
No, rocks is considered landscape.
Okay, but a possible solution is to move some of the pots back over on these paving stones, these stepping stones, and that would satisfy this?
Yes.
Okay.
Mrs. Kraus, I have a question for you. If you move the pots back, I'm sure it'll look very nice, and I think that would be a great solution. But you say you're gone a lot, and would you have an irrigation system set up for that?
I don't. So one of the reasons that I put the rocks there was so that I could get rid of my sprinklers. I got nothing.
But your potted plants would need watering.
Oh, no. Have you looked at them? They're the same plants that your landscape architects recommended. They don't require any water. It's the world's giant aloe, cactus, ice plant. They're built-in water-proof.
Okay.
And I do have a friend that comes and, you know, every other week or so and just checks on things.
Okay.
Has anyone actually done a calculation about the 1/3 coverage? Just looking at this plan, it's not clear to me that we don't have 1/3 landscaping.
The committee did the calculations, and that 1/3 includes where she has the pavers, so we weren't able to include it into the 1/3. So we calculated without the pavers, and we found out that's the 1/3. There's a little landscaping on the left side of the driveway, but this is the main portion of their landscaping in the front yard from what you see in that one picture that showed it from the street. Right there, that picture.
So the stepping stones are not allowed, but the propane tank is?
The propane tank is, correct. Most propane tanks, especially in the front yard, are usually screened with a block wall is what we see. In this particular case, it's not.
making.
I would like to clarify, please, that the pavers is something that can be approved. The two violations that were incurred here is the less landscape and the traversing of the parking. That's the reason why it was denied.
So the parking's been corrected, and then we just have to decide on the pavers.
Correct.
Okay.
Were the pavers installed in a way that would support a car? When you put pavers down in a driveway, they have to be planted in a proper subbasin so they can support the car. Were these pavers installed that way, or were they just installed in the ground and gravel put around them?
Yeah, I just laid them down and, you know, did the spacer with a 2x4 and then put the rocks in between. So it was just.
So I think the real question here is when is a paver and when is a stepping stone or a landscape element a landscape element? I would suggest that it was not installed as a parking area. She parked her car there, probably damaged the landscape as it is. So I'm having some difficulty with this.
I did. I mushed that tile down right in the center when you see it. I had to fix it.
Other thoughts?
I'm kind of with you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with this one as well. I mean, I guess we need a motion.
I need to hear from Tom.
Yeah, just a couple questions. Cheryl, with respect to the potted plants going on there, are they okay on top of these pavers, or do the pavers be removed?
No, the pavers can stay there. We can allow the potted plants to be placed on. We have done that in multiple different areas all over the lake.
And the front yard landscape requirement is or is not met without this area?
According to the ACC committee, when they went out to do the calculations, this was as it is in reference to having this being non-landscape material, then no, they would not meet it. If you, as the board, would like to basically call this just stepping stones, I don't believe my inspectors would send a courtesy notice for stepping stones. In fact, I would probably stop that notification from going out. Like I said from the very beginning, I believe the reason why this was brought up is because of the way the car was parked and the fact that the concrete pavers had just been done recently, and that's the reason why. So an application should have been submitted for the concrete pavers. It's really going to be up to the board whether or not they want to allow it to have the landscaping with the potted plants up there, or just to allow it as is. It's a rule. It's not CNR.
In reading the documentation, I thought I read that the pavers were the stepping stones, as I like to call them, were put in there 6 years ago.
That is correct.
When did you put those? When did you put? Was it 6 years ago?
Yes, it was. They've been there a really long time.
How large are those stepping stones?
Let's see. I've got the Lowe's website up, and they are 15.69 inches square.
As much as I hate to say it, when I built my home, I was required to use stepping stones like that and got to count it as landscape area because I was building over an easement and I wasn't allowed to put concrete on the easement. So I can't help but think about that at this point. Though I didn't try to park anything on it, I must say.
Don't do it. I wouldn't recommend it.
I have to tear up my front yard to get a car over that far. But anyway, to me, it's a question about whether these are driveway pavers or these are stepping stones. I like the idea myself that you're going to move the potted plants over there. You're not going to park your car there anymore. This is all part of the front yard, part of the landscape. But that's the decision that's before us. I would like to have a motion.
I make a motion that the stepping stones be allowed to remain with the understanding that potted plants will put around them to increase the landscaped area.
A second.
Can we give her some time, please?
Oh, yes. How much time do you need?
I'm currently planning on coming back November 20th.
So by the end of December?
Easy, yes.
that this situation be rectified by no later than December 31st, 2020.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
I would love to have you amend that or add to that motion that that a car will never be parked there again.
So amended.
Accept that as the seconder. Do you accept that?
Yes, I'll accept that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you very much. I think that concludes our meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.